From Rejection to Redemption. Part 2.
Qiu Rong finished speaking and couldn't be bothered to look at Qiu Shaozi again, turning around and walking out. Qiu Shaozi finally realized that his old man wasn't lying, and he felt a sense of panic. He knew Qiu Rong's temperament very well. Not only could he bend and stretch, but he also couldn't tolerate any opposition. For the sake of the family's interests, Qiu Rong could sacrifice anyone, including his own son. Qiu Shaozi chased after Qiu Rong. "Dad, there must be some misunderstanding. I don't even know Miss C, how could I offend her? Someone must be setting me up." Qiu Rong glanced back at him. "Take care of yourself." With that, Qiu Rong left without looking back. Qiu Shaozi called out, "Dad! Dad! Dad!" But there was no trace of his father's love. Qiu Shaozi couldn't sit still and quickly got up, put on his clothes, and didn't even care about the woman in the room, heading out with the car keys in hand. He had to figure out what was going on, or with Qiu Rong's temperament, Qiu Shaozi was afraid he would be removed from the family tree. At this time, He Ju followed Zhang De to a bar called A Pot of Wine. He Ju sat there watching Zhang De drink one glass after another. At this moment, He Ju didn't stop him. As long as Zhang De didn't die, it was fine. Zhang De couldn't help but shed tears as he drank. Seeing this, He Ju wiped away the tears and patted Zhang De on the shoulder. "It's only been 3 years, but I feel like I'm being tortured to death. 3 years, over 1,000 days and nights. It wasn't a long time, but it definitely wasn't short." He Ju didn't say anything. Suddenly, Zhang De asked him, "Brother, weren't you in pain for 10 years? He Ju smiled and casually replied, "I used to think I couldn't live without her, but look at me now, I'm doing just fine, aren't I?" Zhang De laughed, his eyes red. Who doesn't understand the reasoning? But suddenly, Zhang Da's eyes cleared, and he staggered to his feet. He Ju instinctively followed Zhang Da's gaze and saw Li Xilan walking in with a man, holding hands and wearing a very short skirt. He Ju felt something was wrong. Wasn't this Zhang Da's ex-girlfriend? How could she move on so quickly after the breakup? Li Xilan seemed to have noticed Zhang De behind He Ju, and the smile on her face instantly disappeared. She said something to the man, and they both looked over here before turning and leaving. Zhang De went crazy. Li Xilan. Li Xilan. If Zhang De hadn't called out, Li Xilan would have left even faster. He Ju grabbed Zhang De, who was about to fall. "Don't go, it's pointless." Zhang De shook off He Ju's hand and ran out of the bar. Worried about him, He Ju quickly paid and followed. He Ju sighed. This world is really ridiculous. Good women can't find good men, and good men can't find good women. Is this what they call a heartless and fickle world? As He Ju stepped out, he saw Zhang De drunkenly grabbing Li Xilan's wrist and asking her, "Are you seamless or did you already betray me?" Li Xilan's face turned ugly, and she impatiently pushed Zhang De, almost knocking him down. She said, "Enough, it's over between us. Do you understand the point of all this?" He Ju pushed the man away and stood his ground, causing Lin Jun to almost lose his balance. Lin Jun was stunned, and when he regained his balance, he was angry. "Who are you? What's it to you?" He Ju couldn't help but frown slightly, his eyes sharpening for a moment. Just as the situation was about to escalate, Li Xilan stepped in between Lin Jun and He Ju. "Enough, this has nothing to do with you two. What are you arguing about?" After speaking, Li Xilan's gaze shifted past He Ju to look at Zhang De. Zhang De stared at her with red eyes, and Li Xilan said, "Seamless connection. When I was with you, I didn't like you, but I didn't get involved with anyone else. I just met him yesterday, and we hit it off." After speaking, Li Xilan looked away, unable to look at Zhang Da's face. Zhang De laughed and couldn't help but give Li Xilan a thumbs up. "Li Xilan, you're amazing. Do I need to respect your honesty?" Li Xilan clearly didn't want to continue dealing with Zhang De, so she pulled Lin Jun and prepared to leave. "Zhang De, with red eyes, subconsciously wanted to question her, but He-ju held him back. "That's enough, brother." Li Shilan and Lin Jun walked further and further away, quickly disappearing from their sight. Zhang De sneered and kicked over a nearby trash can. "Damn love. It's a damn joke. Women are all the same." He-ju was silent for 2 seconds, silently refuting in his heart, "Si-hua is different." Just as He-ju was about to help Zhang De home, he encountered an unexpected visitor. When He-ju saw Su Ran, he couldn't help but frown instinctively. He didn't want to have anything to do with Su Ran now, and he didn't want to know how Su Ran ended up here. Besides, he had already promised to get along well with Si-hua, so he just took Zhang De and changed direction. Who knew? Su Ran quickly stepped forward and blocked his way, forcing He-ju to stop and look at her. Her tone was not good. "Move." Su Ran's expression instantly turned aggrieved. "Brother He-ju, I want to talk to you." He-ju replied, "There's nothing for us to talk about." He-ju tried to support the groggy Zhang De as they walked, but Su Ran grabbed his arm again. "Brother He-ju, can you listen to my explanation? The Chiu family has fallen. Chiu Shaoze won't be a threat to you anymore." He-ju wanted to laugh as he listened, shaking off Su Ran's hand. "Do you think I would be afraid of his threats?" Su Ran wanted to say more, but He-ju's expression darkened. "Su Ran, we each have our own paths to follow. Can't you just stop bothering me?" Dragging Zhang De away, He-ju wished he had a pair of wind-fire wheels under his feet to get as far away from this woman as possible. Su Ran stomped her feet in anger. She had finally gotten news of He-ju and had sneaked out behind her mother's back to find him, but He-ju's attitude was so hostile. No, it wasn't just hostility. He-ju's attitude towards her had been getting worse by the day. At first, he was indifferent but spoke gently, but now, it wasn't just indifference anymore. In He-ju's eyes, she could even see impatience and disgust. "Su Ran, He-ju, aren't you afraid that I'll marry someone else and never bother with you again?" Was she still threatening him now? Did Su Ran really think that He-ju, couldn't live without her? He-ju laughed, "Marry whoever the hell you want, it's none of my damn business." Su Ran cried out of anger, her words unfiltered in her rage. "He-ju, who do you think you are? I, the young lady of the Su family, have put aside my dignity to come find you time and again. I've already given you face. Can't you appreciate what you've got?" He-ju couldn't be bothered with this crazy woman. Without even a glance, he dumped the drunken Zhang De into a taxi, got in himself, and then drove off into the distance. Su Ran stood still, full of disbelief. He-ju actually left like this? Su Ran couldn't understand He-ju's behavior. A woman's intuition told Su Ran that there must be something unusual happening. She didn't believe that He-ju's feelings for her over the past 10 years would just disappear like that. She had to investigate He-ju thoroughly. Su Ran stood still for a long time, and finally, her eyes showed a hint of contemplation. Su Ran looked in the direction He-ju had left and then turned and walked away. He-ju took Zhang De back to his place, and after confirming that Zhang De was not dead, he returned to his apartment. It was almost 5 in the morning by then. He-ju thought Si-hua had already gone back, but as soon as he turned on the light, Si-hua sat up groggily from the sofa, rubbing her sleepy eyes and hoarsely asking him, "How did it go? Is everything okay?" The house had been cleaned up. In that instant, He-ju's heart softened completely. A night of running around and a pile of upsetting things were not as comforting as the peace Si-hua brought him at that moment. He-ju dimmed the lights and handed Si-hua a glass of warm water. "Nothing major, just got drunk and needed someone to take him back." Si-hua, looking worried, took the warm water and gulped it down. Then, her beautiful eyes fully opened, but her face still showed signs of exhaustion. He-ju couldn't help but feel a little distressed. He instinctively reached out and tucked her slightly messy hair behind her ear. "Why don't you go to bed?" Si-hua was visibly taken aback, then smiled sweetly at him. Because I wanted you to see me as soon as you came back. As Si Hua spoke, she couldn't help but lean in closer to Hee-ju. In the dim light, Hee-ju could clearly see her slightly moist lips, with a hint of water, and a hint of innocence in her eyes. Si Hua was only wearing a tank top. As she sat up, the small blanket on her slid off her shoulders, revealing her fair skin and the long, straight legs covered by the blanket. Si Hua seemed unaware of how alluring she was at the moment. Hee-ju smiled at Si Hua. Si Hua, this is very dangerous. Seeing Hee-ju's Adam's apple rolling continuously, Si Hua immediately became much more alert. She subconsciously reached for the fallen blanket, but it was too late. Hee-ju pressed down on the blanket, and Si Hua's heart jumped to her throat, her face turning red. Si Hua couldn't help but whisper, Hee-ju. With just that one sentence, Hee-ju lifted Si Hua's chin and kissed her directly. Si Hua's eyes widened instantly, and she tried to pull away, but her waist was held by a hot palm, her lips tingling, and her heart about to leap out of her chest. After releasing Si Hua for 2 seconds, Hee-ju spoke softly, close your eyes. Si Hua obediently did so, and Hee-ju was very satisfied. He held Si Hua's hand and embraced her, then kissed her fiercely again. Si Hua was almost suffocated by the kiss, and Hee-ju finally let her go. Si Hua's face was completely red. This was indeed what she wanted, but now that it had happened, Si Hua was completely defenseless. Hee-ju had to endure and stop himself from continuing. He had never known that a girl's lips could be so soft and sweet. Si Hua, still dazed, got off the sofa and spoke with a slight stutter, I should go. Hee-ju didn't answer, and Si Hua put on her slippers and tried to leave. But the next second, her waist was held, and Si Hua was sitting on Hee-ju's lap. Si Hua didn't dare to look back, feeling numb all over. Hee-ju couldn't help but hold Si Hua's waist tighter, burying his head in her neck and speaking hoarsely, stay with me, Si Hua. Si Hua sensed that something was wrong. What's wrong? Did someone bully you? Hee-ju smiled. Who could bully him? It was just that after meeting Su Ran and seeing her increasingly unreasonable behavior, and then seeing Si Hua's tenderness and understanding, he felt that heaven had been very kind to him. Si Hua had brought him too many surprises. Si Hua turned around anxiously to ask Hee-ju something, but Hee-ju once again captured her lips accurately, launching a new round of attack. Si Hua's ears turned red again, but she reached out and hugged Hee-ju's head, gradually learning to respond. Her nose was filled with a sweet scent, permeating Hee-ju's entire nasal cavity. Hee-ju couldn't help but hold Si Hua and turn her around. Si Hua couldn't help but exclaim and press against Hee-ju's shoulder, enough, enough. Hee-ju glanced at the time. It was 5:40. Enough for what? Once this kind of thing started, it was hard to turn back. Si Hua's voice was once again drowned out. When Si Hua came out of Hee-ju's room, her hair and clothes were in complete disarray. That Hee-ju had intended to take her home, but Si Hua covered her face and protested, no, don't bother, you should hurry up and go to sleep. Si Hua dashed into her own home, and just as Hee-ju was wondering if he had been too forward, Si Hua poked her little head out again, her lips slightly swollen. Hee-ju thought that Si Hua would probably have to wear a mask if she went out today, otherwise. Si Hua, that. I really liked it. What? Hee-ju's heart trembled, his gaze shifted, and he strode toward Si Hua's house. Si Hua, frightened, quickly shut the door, leaving Hee-ju blocked outside. Aren't you supposed to be a wolf? Hee-ju couldn't help but chuckle. There was no helping it. Once a person tastes sweetness, they just can't stop. Hee-ju knocked on her door, all right, I was just teasing you. If you're free today, sleep a bit more, and come over for dinner later. Si Hua's smile was so wide she couldn't close her mouth, okay. Hee-ju greeted her and hurried off to shower. He hadn't slept all night, but he wasn't tired. Just thinking of Si Hua's enchanting eyes energized him. Si Hua, however, ran excitedly into her room and quickly checked her appearance in the mirror. The blush on her face hadn't faded, and there were red marks on her arm, perhaps from Heju's strong grip, but they didn't hurt at all. Sihua glanced at the time. It was already 6:30 in the morning, and the sky was showing the first light of dawn. My goodness, had they really been together for so long? Heju was still careful with his actions. He hadn't, otherwise, she would have been truly done for. Sihua was still so excited that she called Hiyuyen. Seeing the time, Hiyuyen's first words were, "It's so early, you didn't spend the whole night with Heju without sleeping, did you?" Sihua immediately replied, "No." Hearing this, Hiyuyen silently lay back down. "Sihua, how long has it been? You're already, the early bird catches the worm, and you still haven't sealed the deal. Bai Yan calls you a useless sister, and it turns out you really are a little useless." Sihua blushed and couldn't lift her head after being teased by Hiyuyen. I don't even know if I've succeeded. He was like this morning." Sihua gave a simple description to Hiyuyen, who immediately smiled. "It means that Heju is still gradually falling. Don't rush it now, get closer to him, and then consider bringing him back by deception." Sihua smiled, "I'm not in a hurry. His career is just starting, and I want to accompany him slowly, and then find a suitable time to confess. Hiyuyen, he is a man who has been hurt in love. You must be careful." For some reason, Sihua had inexplicable confidence and couldn't help but smile. "I trust that he won't go back on his word." Hiyuyen clicked her tongue. "Heju is really affectionate and ruthless." "Sihua, what do you mean?" "Hiyuyen, loving someone for 10 years is affectionate, isn't it? But being able to see reality clearly and then cut ties decisively is ruthless, isn't it?" "Sihua, so, is this good or bad?" Hiyuyen smiled. "For you, it's good for now. It means that once this man falls in love, he won't easily change his mind." Sihua couldn't help but smile at her words. But then Hiyuyen told her, "By doing this with you, Heju probably won't get close to anyone else. If he didn't tell you, he must have his own concerns. After all, at this stage, when he enters society, you just need to help him get through it." "But..." Sihua, "But what?" Hiyuyen, "But Heju's sharpness will definitely gradually show. He will definitely become more and more dazzling. Although Heju won't stray, Su Ran might not be the same. She's not stupid. When Heju was down and out, she didn't care, but if Heju becomes successful, she might actively pursue him." Sihua's eyes turned slightly cold, looking at her charming reflection in the mirror, and smiled faintly. "I don't need you to tell me this. I won't let Su Ran have the chance to get close to Heju again." Hiyuyen immediately sent a file over. "Take a good look at the email later. It seems that Su Ran has hired someone to start investigating Heju's movements. If they find out about you, the Chiu family will know that you took action against them because of Heju. The camel's back may be broken by a straw. Even if the Chiu family is down and out, they still have the ability to deal with Heju." Sihua didn't agree with this. "I can find out about the Chiu family's affairs, and so can Heju. If the Chiu family goes after him, I believe he can handle it." Hiyuyen was shocked. "You trust him that much? He doesn't have any connections." Sihua smiled. "In City A, I am his biggest connection. But when it comes to dealing with the Chiu family, I don't need to personally take action. Hiyuyen, you and your husband are quite a pair. I'm really looking forward to the day when Heju grows up and comes to love." Sihua nodded. "I'm looking forward to it too. Before that day comes, Su Ran can't appear in front of Heju again. Yuyen, help me with this." Hiyuyen suddenly felt overwhelmed. "You don't want to directly get rid of them, but you need me to cause a little trouble? Do I need to do that?" "Sihua, I'm afraid my subordinates won't be gentle. After all, Heju loved her for so many years. I don't want to be too ruthless. I just want to keep her busy and not have time to deal with Heju." "Hiyuyen, you're the only one who's soft-hearted towards your love rival. I understand. After that, He Yuyen hung up the phone. Sihua sighed and quickly went to take a shower. It turns out that being in love can be tiring. Sihua's mind was filled with indescribable images. He Ju slept for the whole day and woke up when the night had fallen. He suddenly sat up. Oh no, I overslept. He Ju picked up his phone and saw Sihua's messages. At 3 in the afternoon, Sihua said she had woken up and missed him a little. At 5 in the afternoon, Sihua sent a photo of herself drinking coffee at home. Later, at 6 in the afternoon, Sihua said there was something going on at home and she needed to go abroad immediately, with no set return date. At 7, Sihua sent a photo of a plane ticket to Y country and said she would contact him after landing. He Ju quickly called Bai Yen. As soon as he answered, Bai Yen knew what he wanted to ask and immediately said, "Don't worry, there's a problem with my family's business, and my sister, as the legal representative, has to come forward to solve it. If everything goes well, she should be back in about a week." He Ju finally relaxed and couldn't help but ask tentatively, "Bai Yen, how big is your family's business?" To access the premium content, go to Bai Yen, "I'm not sure about that, but our family has strict rules. However, these rules don't seem to work well on my sister." He Ju, why? Bai Yen thought that since He Ju was going to be his sister's husband in the future, it wouldn't hurt to tell him a little, so he confessed, "My sister is the future heir decided by the family council. Our family's business is all over the world. Although each place has its own leader, my sister's word can directly decide the survival of that business. Bai Yen, when my sister was very young, she showed amazing talent and is a genius in the business world." He Ju couldn't help but be shocked. Could Sihua's family be a hidden big family? He Ju asked Bai Yen about it. Bai Yen chuckled, "This kind of thing should be told to you by my sister." Bai Yen, "But my sister is too kind to her enemies. I won't mention it. I just want to graduate quickly and live off my family's money. I don't want to inherit any family business, so." Bai Yen immediately shut up, his face turning pale for a moment. That's why, when he found out that Sihua liked He Ju, he acted like a spy, taking pictures of He Ju's life every day and sending them to Sihua, who was far away in a foreign country. Bai Yen swore that he had never been so concerned and nervous about a girlfriend before. When He Ju was rejected by Su Ran, he was afraid that Sihua wouldn't come back. Who knew? Sihua was also very proactive. He Ju's mind was also not something an ordinary person could match, except, when it came to love, Bai Yen should also thank Su Ran, thank her for not recognizing the true value of things, mistaking pearls for fish eyes, giving him and his sister the perfect opportunity. With the family fortune being so immense, Bai Yen even felt that money was a vulgar nuisance. It was always sweeter to spend someone else's money. Sihua needed someone who could help her take full control of the family business, and it would be the same no matter whom she married. Better to benefit He Ju than a stranger. At least He Ju would give Bai Yen money to spend, but once Sihua got married, how could she still care about him? His future days couldn't be more comfortable. With these two brilliant minds guarding the family business, Bai Yen had nothing to worry about. He Ju, go on, why have you stopped talking? Bai Yen muttered to himself, "Anyway, before you become my sister's husband, I won't be letting out even a peep." Bai Yen, "Anyway, that's the situation. He Ju, listen to your brother, hurry up and win over my sister. Although I don't find her attractive, Su Ran is even uglier. Compare the two, and you'll be content." "That's it, I'm hanging up, bye." He Ju. "Kid, I can understand you saying Su Ran isn't good looking, but you say your sister, who is as beautiful as a flower, isn't good looking. Are you blind?" This is. When Sihua arrived in London, it was 22:36 in City A and 15:36 in London. Sihua only sent a message to He Ju to let him know she was safe before hurrying to the company. In the past, Sihua would work tirelessly for 24 hours without complaint, but now things were different. She wished she could grow wings and fly back as soon as possible. He-Ju was also busy. After putting down his phone, he ordered takeout and sat in front of his computer. Since he had already decided to give Si-Hua a future, he couldn't continue living a stagnant life. He had to return to his old profession. Thinking of Si-Hua's tempting lips, He-Ju felt ecstatic and worked even harder. Sitting in front of the computer, He-Ju looked through his previous design sketches. In the past, for Su Ran, he had designed many wedding dresses, from Western to Chinese styles. He couldn't even remember how many sets he had designed. He had never been willing to sell them because they were all designed with Su Ran in mind, and he had put all his effort into them, to a degree that even Su Ran didn't know. He dreamed that one day in the future, Su Ran would wear the wedding dress he had designed with his own hands. But now, there were many unfinished jewelry design sketches, all gathering dust in He-Ju's computer. He-Ju wasn't very good at jewelry design and hadn't tried making them himself. Coupled with the heavy workload of his studies, he didn't have much time to research and had taken many detours in learning. So, he gradually gave up. But from now on, he had to seriously consider this path. He had casually posted a design sketch online, and someone offered a high price to buy it. He thought about perfecting it before selling it. When he needed money, he would sell some of the initial drafts he had just started practicing, earning a few thousand yuan as extra income. But now things were different. He had to pick up all these neglected design sketches and gradually bring them onto the international stage. This was the first step to his success. He-Ju was so busy that the sky was beginning to lighten. He took his keys, drove to the bank, and counted his money with his ID and bank card. The money he earned before was divided into 3 parts, 1 part for fixed assets, 1 for himself, and 1 for Su Ran. The part for Su Ran was the largest, and his own was the smallest. He-Ju looked at his savings, 58,800 yuan. Adding the 2,000 yuan he could currently use, it was almost 70,000 yuan. Not enough, far from enough. He-Ju looked up at the sky, which was clear and cloudless. The surrounding area was full of people rushing around, working hard for their lives day after day, year after year, until they grew old. There was very little time in one's life to live for oneself. He-Ju thought, give him another 10 years, and he would stand at the top of the world, trampling on all those who had looked down on him before. He-Ju smiled, took out his phone, and dialed the number he had never called before. When the call connected, an excited and elderly voice said, "Little friend He-Ju, have you figured it out?" Looking at the bustling crowd and the tall buildings of City A, He-Ju thought of Si-Hua's sincere eyes and the words she had said to him on the Jade Dragon Snow Mountain. He-Ju smiled, "Elder Jiang, if you have time, come to City A. I have a lot of things you want here. Let's talk when you're free." The old man in a distant country immediately stood up from his chair, excitedly saying, "I understand your concerns, little friend He-Ju. Tomorrow morning, I will definitely come to City A. You don't need to contact anyone else. I know you have almost no complete sketches on hand, but it doesn't matter. I will bring professional designers to help you perfect them. Little friend He-Ju, you must not rush to sell them." He-Ju agreed and hung up the phone. This was originally just He-Ju's hobby, just something he did for fun. He never expected that in the future, he might have to rely on this to make a living. He-Ju wasn't just good at drawing design sketches, he had met Elder Jiang through a gambling stone. He seemed to have a natural sensitivity to this thing and helped Elder Jiang win a few times, thus getting to know him. Elder Jiang was the one who was willing to buy He-Ju's design sketches at a high price. Elder Jiang immediately called his assistant, "Book a plane ticket for me and bring our best clothing and jewelry designers." After making the call, Elder Jiang turned to look at the unfinished wedding dress design sketch hanging on the wall, unable to hold back the tears. Finally, this stubborn mule has finally come to his senses. When He-Ju returned home and organized his drawings, he sent a greeting message to Si-Hua and then fell into a deep sleep. When Bai Yan came to find He-Ju, he was still groggy as he climbed out of bed. Bai Yan dragged He-Ju out and immediately got to the point, "Our internship department assignments are out, and both of us are going to investment department 1. Heju's eyes widened in surprise. Investment department 1. Bai Yen nodded frantically. Yes, yes, yes. The investment department at Xinyao is completely different from those small companies. A big project usually involves tens of millions or even hundreds of millions. There are many big shots in the investment department, and to compete for projects, people are willing to do anything. Although it's a great place to gain experience, I'm really afraid I'll end up dead without a trace. Something about Bai Yan's words didn't sit right with Heju. Heju, so what are you trying to say? Bai Yan chuckled twice. That's why I've applied to transfer to the administrative department. I won't be with you anymore. Heju frowned. Do you really not want to learn anything? Bai Yan shook his head. Same old, I just want to coast through life. After saying that, Bai Yan turned and left the bedroom. Come on, my sister ordered takeout for you. Heju immediately got out of bed. She's back. Bai Yan, how could she be back so soon? She's probably swamped with work lately. Just as Heju sat down, he noticed the documents on the table. What's this? Bai Yan smiled. It's something my sister is dealing with right now. Take a look and see if you can find a solution. Heju was shocked. Bai Yan, isn't this a trade secret? Bai Yan rolled his eyes. What trade secret? It's just a matter of a few $100 million. My sister said if it can't save her, she can't be bothered with it. Heju. Is this the world of the wealthy? Poverty limited his imagination. While Bai Yan was eating the takeout, he suddenly mentioned, by the way, Su Ran seems to be investigating you. Heju's gaze turned cold for a moment, and he couldn't help but curse. Is she sick? Bai Yan nodded, probably too much free time on her hands. Heju was utterly speechless. Why was this never ending? For the first time, Heju felt the urge to teach Su Ran a lesson. She was overstepping her bounds. Bai Yan, oh, and that Jia is also in the investment department, but in investment department 2. You guys will be competitors from now on. Heju was visibly taken aback. Does it have to be such a coincidence? Bai Yan was speechless too, but that's life for you. The more you fear something, the more it comes after you. As they ate and chatted absent-mindedly, Bai Yan suddenly said, the auction that only happens once every 5 years is coming up in 2 months. It's going to be held in City A this time. I plan to go and see. Do you want to come with me? In fact, Bai Yan was being forced to go. His father's task for him was to buy something of inestimable value at this year's auction, but he was only given 5 million for it. You should know that even a low-grade piece of jade starts at 100,000 at a national auction like this, with the better ones going for millions and the best ones reaching the billion mark. And at auctions, it's the highest bidder who wins. 5 million. Bai Yan was at a loss. He had already hired several antique appraisal experts from abroad, hoping they would be of some use. The Bai family had resources and power in various fields such as food, business, and government, but they couldn't break into the antique market. This was because everyone in the Bai family was prone to losing at gambling, even Si Hua. As the older generation would say, no one in this family has the luck for gambling. But the profits in this industry were unmatched by any other. Heju suddenly remembered the antique market he had stumbled into a few years ago and couldn't help but smile. Go ahead. It's a good opportunity for you to gain some experience as you're just starting out in society. Bai Yan nodded happily. He didn't have high hopes for Heju, but since Heju was going to be his brother-in-law in the future, there was no harm in him getting some early exposure to this. No one besides Heju himself knew that he was good at gambling stones. After Bai Yan left, Heju's life became busy again. He was constantly thinking of ways to make money, but this time, it was for himself, so that he would no longer be subject to the judgment of others. All his pride and self-proclaimed dignity meant nothing in the face of money. In the past, he had refused to exchange his design drafts for money because Su Ran didn't like gambling, and he didn't want anything to do with it either. Even though he had an extraordinary talent in both areas that most people didn't possess. A person can only have a chance at success if they understand their position clearly. The day He Ju was supposed to meet Elder Jiang came around quickly. He Ju was invited to a studio in the city center. As soon as he got upstairs and onto the rooftop, he saw a familiar face. It was Elder Jiang. When it came to top designers at home and abroad, Elder Jiang was one of the top 10 in the country. He had countless apprentices, most of whom were able to showcase their designs on the international stage and display their work to the world, all thanks to their talent and professional training. He Ju, on the other hand, was just an amateur. He had no teacher to guide him and no professional to point him in the right direction. All his drawings were based solely on his wild imagination. And yet, he had caught Elder Jiang's eye. Elder Jiang stood up as soon as he saw He Ju and walked over with his cane, his face beaming with joy. He Ju, my little friend, it's been a long time, a very long time. He Ju shook hands with Elder Jiang. Elder Jiang, it's been a long time. Elder Jiang smiled kindly and quickly pulled He Ju to sit at the dining table, then instructed the bodyguard behind him, "You can serve the food now." After the bodyguard left, Elder Jiang spoke with a contented expression, "He Ju, I've been waiting for your call for over 3 years. Let's be frank, are you here today to agree to what I proposed 3 years ago?" 3 years ago, Elder Jiang had clearly expressed his intention to recruit He Ju and even suggested that He Ju become his apprentice, promising to help him showcase his work on the world stage. At that moment, the waiter brought all the dishes to the table. He Ju said, "How about we eat first?" Elder Jiang burst into laughter. Of course, of course. Let's eat first, and then we can talk." So, the first meal in 3 years between the two of them was quite enjoyable. After the meal, He Ju got down to business. "Elder Jiang, we hit it off when we first met, so I won't beat around the bush. I value my freedom and don't like being tied down, so I'm afraid I can't be your apprentice." Elder Jiang seemed to have expected this and just laughed heartily a couple of times. He didn't dwell on the matter and instead proposed another plan. "Since you've come to see me, it means you've made up your mind. I'm a businessman, and I don't make losing deals. You have a great talent for design, but you lack guidance, so hardly any of your drafts are completed successfully. I didn't come alone this time. I've brought the 2 best teachers from abroad. If you're willing, they will give it their all to help you. Read the most updated version of this novel and other amazing translated novels from the original source at pori.com. He Ju smiled. "So, Elder Jiang, why don't you just tell me your conditions and requirements?" Elder Jiang squinted his eyes and smiled. "For 3 years, the copyright of all your works will belong to our company, and we will be responsible for selling, promoting, and auctioning them. You won't need to pay anything, and we'll take a 70% cut of all the royalties your work earns, while you'll get 30%. How about it?" He really was a cunning old fox. Elder Jiang didn't mention a word about the authorship issue. He Ju could guess the wordplay in the follow-up contract after monopolizing all his works for 3 years. He Ju just smiled lightly, without a hint of fear in his eyes. "I can only accept a 1-year term. In that year, I can guarantee a submission every 2 months. The organizing unit can be you, but the authorship must be mine, and the manuscript fee is to be split 50-50. Elder Jiang was immediately surprised. He thought He Ju came to him because he had come around, but now it seemed, he really had. But the man was shrewd. Elder Jiang's face lost its smile. "He Ju, little friend, isn't this a bit unfair?" He Ju remained calm and spoke slowly. "Elder Jiang, if I had no value, you wouldn't have hurried back to China the day after I called, would you?" Elder Jiang stared at He Ju for a long time, not seeing a trace of cowardice on his face or in his eyes. Just like when He Ju first entered the antique market and casually pointed out which piece of rough stone contained a treasure. He Ju was smart and courageous. Elder Jiang believed that if they couldn't come to an agreement today, it would be even harder to do so in the future. Although He Ju was young, he was not at all foolish. And that design draft, he had waited 3 years for it. A full 3 years, an agonizingly long time. Heju's works, once perfected, could be immediately showcased at a fashion show, and he felt the response would definitely be good. It's just that this 50-50 split really pained him. Elder Jiang gritted his teeth. He couldn't just make a wasted trip, especially considering the person Heju was. He was never wrong about people. Elder Jiang, with a pained expression, said, 2 years. A 60-40 split. Heju smiled subtly, deal. That easy? For a moment, Elder Jiang felt he had been tricked. Heju struck while the iron was hot, so, those 2 masters you mentioned, they're offering free guidance, right? Elder Jiang fell silent. You really don't let any advantage slip by, do you? Elder Jiang sighed, who told this old man to value talent? I'll let them stay here for 2 months. You can come to the studio to find them at any time. Heju smiled again, and Elder Jiang had a feeling that the next thing Heju was going to say was not what he wanted to hear. Sure enough, Heju said, Elder Jiang, words are empty. It's better to have a written contract. Elder Jiang's face darkened. How did he feel that this 4 to 6 and these 2 years were all planned by Heju in advance? In the end, Elder Jiang agreed, and the contract would be sent to Heju's home the next morning. Elder Jiang said, but I have one condition. Heju replied, go ahead. Elder Jiang said, after the 2-year contract is up, your value will definitely double. If there is any cooperation, you should give our company priority, understand? Heju smiled, if we have a pleasant cooperation in 2 years, it's not impossible to continue in the future. Heju said, there's an old saying, there are no permanent friends, only permanent interests. If Elder Jiang is willing to help me now, I won't forget Elder Jiang's support in the future if I succeed. After exchanging pleasantries for a while, Heju left. Elder Jiang watched Heju leave and couldn't help but shake his head and smile, saying to his assistant behind him, young people nowadays are really something. Assistant Su didn't understand why Elder Jiang was so accommodating to Heju. In his memory, even if Elder Jiang's students won international awards, Elder Jiang would only praise them briefly, and had never shown such appreciation and satisfaction for someone like Heju. A 4 to 6 split. Termination after 2 years. This was not Elder Jiang's style at all. Assistant Su raised a question, Elder Jiang, Heju is just a young and inexperienced kid. Why are you so accommodating to him? Elder Jiang replied, he is talented. Assistant Su sneered, obviously looking down on Heju, Elder Jiang, there are plenty of talented people under your wing. What's so special about Heju? Assistant Su continued, and his work is all subpar. Even if he sells it, he won't make much money. Elder Jiang shook his head, you all have short-sighted vision. Assistant Su flattered him obediently for a few words and then fell silent, but he still didn't approve of Heju. Just a kid with a little talent, yet he talked to Elder Jiang as if he were nobody. How could he be someone with a future? Elder Jiang couldn't be bothered to explain. He just said, no matter what dissatisfaction you have with Heju, keep it to yourself. Don't let him feel that we are neglecting him. Also, when he produces a piece of work, give him the best platform. It should be out this month, and I want him on the runway next month. He should receive the full amount for his work, and the contract should be drawn up as soon as possible and sent to Heju. Assistant Su nodded, I understand, sir. I will take care of it. Elder Jiang nodded in satisfaction, and a hint of anticipation suddenly appeared in his old eyes. He was just selling Heju a bit of goodwill. 2 years. Elder Jiang was starting to look forward to Heju in 2 years. Elder Jiang was about to leave when the little girl at the front desk ran up to him and handed him a drawing. Sir, this is from Mr. He for you. Elder Jiang opened it with confusion, and in that instant, his eyes widened. It was a complete wedding dress design, the same one hanging in his living room. So, Heju wasn't unable to design the other half, but for some reason, he hadn't completed it. Elder Jiang also saw the small words written next to it, Elder Jiang, consider this my gift to you." Elder Jiang laughed heartily and couldn't help but praise repeatedly, "He Ju is truly remarkable." This old man didn't misjudge him. From that day on, He Ju led an unusually busy life. He interned during the day, followed his teacher on projects, conducted field inspections, and in the evenings, he made time to video call Si Hua. He also offered her some ideas and worked hard on designing drafts. Occasionally, he would meet up with friends a few times. His days were busy and fulfilling. But, due to a major case of leaking trade secrets in the overseas company, Si Hua, as the legal representative of the company, couldn't return to China temporarily. She had to wait until it was resolved before she could come back. He Ju missed Si Hua. But there was no use in missing her. Their time zones were different, and unless they made a specific appointment, it was hard to talk. Si Hua was gone for 2 months. He Ju's first design draft had already made its debut at a fashion show in a third-tier city. To He Ju's surprise, the response was very good. After the show, many people inquired about the source of the wedding dress and even made early reservations. Elder Jiang was also very satisfied with this trial run and was gradually preparing to take the wedding dress to a bigger stage. On a Friday night at 10 o'clock, He Ju was working overtime on a project PPT when someone tapped him on the shoulder. He Ju turned around and saw the face he had been longing for. It was Si Hua. She was wearing a black body-hugging skirt, with her long black hair draped over her shoulders, making her small, exquisite face even more beautiful. Si Hua smiled mischievously and winked at him. "He Ju, long time no see. Have you missed your sister?" In that moment, He Ju was stunned. "How did you come back? And without even letting me know? I could have picked you up." Si Hua raised her lips. "I asked Bai Yan and found out you were working overtime. I wanted to surprise you." With that, Si Hua took out a food box from behind her and placed it on He Ju's desk. "I heard from Bai Yan that you've been very secretive lately, not eating properly. Even though I'm not here, you still need to take care of yourself, right?" He Ju looked at Si Hua's beautiful profile and couldn't help but ask, "Did you come back just to do this?" Si Hua turned back and smiled, her eyes curved. "Yes, I specially made corn and pork rib soup. It's delicious and sweet." Si Hua's voice came to an abrupt halt as her eyes suddenly widened. She was unexpectedly pulled over by He Ju, his lips sealing hers before she could react, her hand still resting on the food box. He Ju covered her eyes with his hand and then, with one arm, lifted her up and placed her on the computer desk behind him. Si Hua couldn't help but exclaim, her hands bracing against He Ju's shoulders, her face flushed thoroughly, "He Ju, this is the office." He Ju whispered in her ear, "I'm the only one working overtime right now, don't worry." He Ju couldn't help but grasp Si Hua's soft, boneless hand, his voice hoarse, "Sister Si Hua, you've been away for too long, I've missed you so much it hurts." To access the premium content, go to. With those words, Si Hua no longer played coy, reaching out to embrace He Ju's head, eagerly reciprocating. How could He Ju miss her more than she missed him? In places He Ju couldn't see, she had cried countless times over the past 2 months. It was just. She was too embarrassed to let He Ju know. As soon as the issues over there were resolved and she obtained the travel permit, Si Hua returned to China at the first opportunity. Fortunately, He Ju was still thinking of her. Just as He Ju and Si Hua were reluctant to part, footsteps suddenly sounded at the door. He Ju let go of Si Hua, who was lost in thought, and held her in his arms with one hand. Find the original at bit.ly/3ibfjkv. Si Hua also came to her senses for a moment, quickly tidying up her disheveled clothes and hair. "I look like this, it's really embarrassing to see people. I'll go out from the back and wait for you in the parking lot." He Ju, "Actually, it doesn't matter if someone sees us. I will take responsibility." Before Hee-ju could say the rest of the sentence, Si-hwa hurriedly grabbed her bag and ran off. See you later. After all, this is Starlight. Many people have seen Si-hwa here. If she is found with Hee-ju, she will be fine, but Hee-ju may not be so easygoing. Hee-ju could only shake his head helplessly and then looked at the pork rib soup on the table, feeling full of sweetness in his heart. Soon, the person came over, and from a distance, Hee-ju could see the figure of that person. Lu Jia was carrying something and hurriedly came towards him. I saw the background picture you posted on your friend's circle an hour ago was in the company, so I thought you must be working overtime, so I brought you some dinner. You. Lu Jia approached eagerly, but when she saw the food box placed behind Hee-ju, her words stopped abruptly. For the past 2 months, she had been in investment department 2, while Hee-ju had been in investment department 1, both in the same office. But Hee-ju treated her no differently than any other ordinary colleague. Every time she tried to get close to Hee-ju, she was calmly pushed away by Hee-ju. Lu Jia couldn't help feeling a little embarrassed. Have you had dinner? Did your brother send it? Hee-ju smiled and shook his head, my girlfriend sent it. What? Lu Jia's face suddenly turned pale. For 2 months, Hee-ju had never mentioned having a girlfriend, nor had she ever seen Hee-ju being intimate with anyone. She thought. Hee-ju sat down on his own and started eating the dinner Si-hwa had sent. Then he smiled at Jia next to him. You must be tired from rushing over. I have a portion here for you. I understand your portion, so why don't you sit down and eat together? Lu Jia came to her senses. She was already heartbroken, unable to maintain her usual smile. Reason told her that she couldn't stay any longer. But this was the only chance to be alone with Hee-ju. Every time they met at the company, she could only watch him from a distance, feeling both sad and happy. In the end, Lu Jia sat down not far from Hee-ju. I haven't eaten either, so let's eat together. Hee-ju was slightly surprised. He had clearly stated that he had a girlfriend, but Lu Jia still wanted to sit down and have a meal with him. How could he not see Lu Jia's intentions? He had been like this himself in the past. Hee-ju chatted with Lu Jia absent-mindedly. Soon, he finished his dinner, turned off the computer, packed up, and was ready to leave. Jia, my girlfriend is waiting for me downstairs. I won't wait for you. I'm leaving first. Lu Jia quickly turned her face away, not letting Hee-ju see her teary eyes, and replied softly, okay, be safe on the way. Looking at Lu Jia now, he felt like he was looking at his past self. He couldn't help but feel a bit of pity for Lu Jia. The feeling of being ignored by the person you like was not easy to bear. So Hee-ju took a pack of tissues from his bag and placed it on Lu Jia's desk, and also took a bottle of mineral water and placed it next to Lu Jia. Hee-ju didn't expose her vulnerability at this moment, just said politely, get home safely. Hee-ju left, out of Lu Jia's sight, but he didn't go far. He leaned against the wall in the corridor, hands in his pockets, listening to the movement inside. He didn't like Lu Jia, but after so many years as classmates and now colleagues, he just wanted to make sure Lu Jia was safe. And Lu Jia's tears had already burst the moment Hee-ju left the office, and she was sobbing on the table. She liked Hee-ju too much, but she was too weak, so she swallowed the half-cooked rice without regret. She always felt that there was still time. As long as Hee-ju stopped liking Su Ran, she could slowly accompany Hee-ju out of the pain. But fate was not something she could wait for just because she wanted to. One missed opportunity is forever. Lu Jia choked up, and her phone rang in her bag. Even with tears in her eyes, she could see clearly who was calling. It was her mother. Lu Jia burst into tears instantly. When she answered the phone, she couldn't even say a complete sentence. After calming down, Lu Jia finally choked out, Mom, I'm at the office. Can you come and pick me up? After hanging up the phone, Lu Jia continued to lie on the table. The suffocating feeling of heartache made her feel like she was about to die at any moment. Lu Jia was lost in her own world and naturally didn't notice that He Ju, outside the corridor, had breathed a sigh of relief when he heard Lu Jia calling her mother to pick her up, and then he turned and left. If he didn't have sister Si Hua, who loved him deeply and gave him all her heart, by his side, perhaps he would have been moved by Lu Jia's persistence and eventually fallen for her. But there are no ifs in this world. In the parking lot, He Ju saw the unpretentious BMW. Si Hua was standing with her back to him, talking on the phone. Her long wavy hair hung down to her waist, and her slender figure was a feast for the eyes from behind. He Ju didn't disturb Si Hua until she hung up the phone. Then he rushed over and hugged Si Hua from behind, scaring her with a cry of surprise, and she almost dropped her phone. But the moment she smelled the familiar scent, Si Hua relaxed instantly and asked sweetly, "Missed me?" He Ju rubbed his fragrant sister and chuckled, "I did." Si Hua's face turned red in an instant and she couldn't help but pat the arm that was holding her waist. "Let's go home." Si Hua was trembling with fear. Although it was an open and honest embrace and kiss, it felt a bit like an affair in the office. He Ju obediently let go of Si Hua, and the two of them got in a car and left the parking lot at first. He Ju didn't know that Starshine was Si Hua's company, but over the past 2 months, there was one time when he went to see Bai Yen and witnessed Bai Yen furiously scolding the leader of his investment department. The leader of his investment department didn't dare to even let out a peep and respectfully addressed Bai Yen as young master. In that instant, He Ju understood the words Bai Yen had said before: if one wanted to get into Starshine, it actually depended mainly on Si Hua. He Ju didn't alarm anyone and left quietly, but after returning, he thoroughly investigated the Starshine Group. Although the Starshine Group didn't bear Si Hua's name, it was under the name of a man with the surname Bai. If He Ju wasn't mistaken, that should be the father of Bai Yen and Si Hua. Therefore, Si Hua was indeed the current president and executive director of the Starshine Group. He Ju could understand why Si Hua and Bai Yen didn't tell him, and he wasn't angry about it. It only made him more determined to stand firm at the pinnacle, above the masses. The two returned to their single apartments and went to their respective rooms to take a shower. After showering, He Ju continued to sit in front of the computer and work on coloring his design. He was focused for a while when the doorbell rang. He Ju came back to his senses and quickly got up to open the door. In his mind, he thought he should quickly record Si Hua's fingerprint so that she could come in without him having to open the door for her. He Ju smiled as he opened the door, "You're here." But as soon as he saw the person outside the door, the smile on He Ju's face disappeared instantly. Who else could it be but Su Ran? She hadn't bothered him for 2 months, and now she suddenly showed up. It seemed that the crisis at the Su family's company had been resolved, right? Su Ran actually had the time to come and bother him. It seemed like the fire wasn't burning hot enough for her. He Ju frowned as he looked at the tired-looking Su Ran. "What are you here for?" Su Ran's eyes were bloodshot, far from the accusing look she used to give him at school. "I couldn't reach you by phone for 2 months, and you never replied to my messages. I had to put in a lot of effort to find your place. How can you question me as soon as I arrive?" He Ju's face immediately darkened, and he had no patience for Su Ran. He regretted not checking the peephole before opening the door, thinking it was Si Hua who had rung the bell. He Ju couldn't be bothered to say anything to Su Ran and immediately tried to close the door. But Su Ran quickly blocked it. "He Ju, do you know what I've been through in these 2 months?" He Ju's temples were throbbing with pain, and he coldly replied, "I don't want to know." But Su Ran persisted. "The Su family is facing a financial crisis, and my plans to study abroad have fallen through. Although it won't lead to the downfall of the Su family, we can't afford to slack off. Whenever I had free time, I would think of you. You moved, and I couldn't find you. Your phone was unreachable. He Ju, whether you blame me or hate me, I accept it. But don't just disappear from my life completely." Read the most updated version of this novel and other amazing translated novels from the original source at pori.com. He Ju found her words amusing. What relationship did he have with Su Ran? What right did she have to say these things to him? But Jew couldn't be bothered to argue further and just glanced at Su Ran, asking, "Are you done?" Nervously, Su Ran nodded. She had to admit that Jew was useful to her. In the past, whether it was the Su family's business or her studies, Jew always gave straightforward and appropriate advice. As long as Su Ran followed his advice, the Su family would thrive. But now, care what others said and worked happily all day long. Even at the morning meeting, he said, "The chairman of the company is back. Everyone should work seriously from now on and strive to achieve results as soon as possible to gain the favor of the chairman, etc." Jew secretly laughed all day long. After the morning meeting, Jew went to inspect the project with his master Mu Ruffing. It was almost 4 o'clock in the afternoon when they were about to finish. Mu Ruffing wiped the sweat from his forehead and looked around at the environment, saying, "Xiao He, what do you think of this remote suburb? There is only a small clear river around, and nothing else. It's hot in the summer and cold in the winter. Is it just a pipe dream to invest in tourism projects here?" Jew looked around and indeed, there was no beautiful scenery here, the road was winding and not easy to find, and there was no shade around. It was obviously impractical to build tourism projects such as hotels or amusement parks here. But Jew smiled and said, "Master, although large projects cannot be built here, it is a good place for mountain off-road and camping. We can try to promote it." Mu Ruffing waved his hand, "Xiao He, you are still young. This place is in the middle of nowhere. Who would want to come camping in such a place?" Jew, mountain off-road can be done at fixed times, and the rest of the time is very suitable for camping. The river is not fast and will not flood. As long as we set up shade shelters nearby and do good promotion. Mu Ruffing was a little impatient. "All right, you can do this small project on your own." After speaking, Mu Ruffing turned and left. He didn't know who said that this abandoned project would have some value, making him sit in the car for 2 or 3 hours in the hot weather to inspect it. It seemed that today was another day of no gain. Jew could only keep his mouth shut and didn't continue the topic, but he silently remembered the location and planned to come back in a few days. Even if it was a small project, as long as there was funding, he felt that the profit potential was not to be underestimated. Moreover, the environment here was quiet, and young people nowadays were under a lot of pressure, both in work and life. This place was really a good place to relax, and the cost needed was very low. The river here was connected to the uneven mountains in the distance, and it was really suitable for extreme off-road driving. Jew also had a certain understanding of motorcycles. If he were the driver, he would indeed be quite satisfied with this road. If the investors set up some roadblocks in the middle, there would be no shortage of visitors. But obviously, the current project still needed Jew to make the PPT and proposal to fight for it. After driving his master home, Jew rode his electric scooter back home. On the way, he went into the pharmacy and bought several boxes of condoms. There were only a few left at home from last night, and they were almost all used up. Would there be a shortage in the future? What Jew didn't expect was that when he parked his scooter and carried the bag upstairs, someone suddenly rushed out in the hallway and snatched his bag. When Jew saw Su Ran in that moment, his eyes were cold and indifferent as never before. He reached out to Su Ran and said, "Give it back." At this moment, Su Ran was completely transformed from the haggard Su Ran of yesterday. She was now wearing delicate makeup and high heels. When she saw the contents of Jew's bag, she suddenly realized something. "Su Ran, no wonder. No wonder you changed so much in just a few months. It turns out there's a little vixen seducing you." Su Ran suddenly teared up. "Jew, is this your so-called love for me? Do you know you're cheating?" Jew looked at Su Ran's breakdown with cold eyes, feeling no pity, only thinking that this woman was going crazy. Cheating? Did they ever get together? What kind of cheating was this? Jew couldn't be bothered to explain to Su Ran. He was in a hurry to go back and check on Sihua's situation. Sihua had been too intense last night, and he was afraid she might get hurt. So Ju quickly snatched the bag and walked into the elevator. Unexpectedly, Su Ran followed him. She's still at your place, right? No wonder you're moving. I want to see who's haunting your dreams. Ju reached out to stop the closing elevator door, suppressing his anger. Su Ran, have you had enough? Su Ran's face was red from what Ju said, but she stubbornly stood there. No, Ju, just because I rejected you, you can't be mad at me like this. Ju sneered. Su Ran, who the hell do you think you are? Do you really think I can't live without you? Su Ran's face turned pale for a moment. What do you mean? Seeing that she was really pretending to be stupid to the extreme, Ju couldn't bear it anymore. He grabbed Su Ran's wrist and threw her out of the elevator. Su Ran didn't expect Ju to lay hands on her, and for a moment, she fell to the ground and didn't get up. Instead, Ju squatted down in front of her, and his voice was terrifyingly unfamiliar to Su Ran. He coldly said, Su Ran, a man's patience is limited, and you have touched my bottom line. Su Ran suddenly came to her senses, her eyes full of resentment and defiance. Ju, you have always liked me, but it was that woman who took advantage of our quarrel to make the first move. Why can't you see that? Ju's eyes instantly darkened, and he firmly grasped Su Ran's chin, exerting a lot of force, forcing Su Ran to look up at him. She frowned and cried out, ouch. Ju's eyes were devoid of emotion, yet they inexplicably sent a chill down Su Ran's spine. Su Ran, you really are despicable. When I loved you, you didn't cherish it. Now that I don't, you're desperately trying to disgust me. If you had maintained your dignity, I might have respected you a bit more, but I'm sorry to say, you've disappointed me. Oh, and didn't you say you wanted to deal with me? Let your Su family come at me, and we'll see who ends up dead or alive. Ju shook off Su Ran with a look of disdain that he didn't bother to hide. Su Ran, you forced my hand, and now I have no choice but to strike back. You better not come begging to me. With that, Ju took the elevator upstairs. When he returned, it was already 6 in the evening, but the room was still quiet. Ju set down his bag and went upstairs. Sihua seemed to be really exhausted, still asleep and hadn't woken up yet, though the herbal tea on the table had all been drunk. Ju didn't disturb Sihua, simply tucking her in quietly before hurrying to cook a steaming bowl of noodles for his charming wife. At this time, Su Ran also left and went back home. She didn't even have the mood to look at her parents in the living room, and went upstairs alone. Shen Yan and Su Zhen both felt very strange. Shen Yan instinctively wanted to follow and ask what was going on, but was stopped by Su Zhen. I'll go see, your temper is too quick, it might have the opposite effect if you go. Shen Yan, eager to see her daughter, reluctantly agreed. Su Ran returned to her bedroom and did nothing. She even sat on the balcony's lounge chair without changing her shoes, staring blankly at the round moon in the sky. Su Ran finally felt boundless loneliness and sudden sadness and heartache. At this point, Su Ran could no longer deceive herself. Ju having that kind of thing in his hand meant that he already had another woman by his side. Ju understood Su Ran's thoughts and actions, so how could Su Ran not understand Ju at all? Ju was a very upright person. Once he took that step, it meant that he was ready to spend the rest of his life with someone else. But what about her? Could Ju really bear to abandon her? Su Zhen knocked on the door several times, but Su Ran did not respond. Su Zhen thought something had happened to Su Ran, so he barged in. Su Zhen didn't find Su Ran in the bedroom, but found traces of her on the balcony. As Su Zhen walked over, he saw Su Ran staring blankly into the distance. Su Zhen couldn't help but be slightly surprised. He had never seen Su Ran like this before, and couldn't help but worry. He bent down and patted Su Ran's shoulder, then asked her carefully, Ran. What happened? Tell Dad about it. Su Ran finally reacted, and at the sight of Su Zhen, she burst into tears. Dad, he hit me today. he really doesn't like me anymore, sob. Su Zhen's expression was at a loss. The thing he was most worried about had happened. He Ju was not a foolish person. On the contrary, he was a very smart person. It was just because he liked Su Ran that he had been so tolerant of her before. But once he no longer liked her. Su Ran was no longer his exception. Su Zhen sighed and his eyes fell on the elbow that Su Ran had injured, where the skin was broken and the bruise inside was black and blue. Su Zhen had to quickly find the first aid kit to disinfect and bandage Su Ran's wound. Su Zhen's expression was not good either. Even if he no longer liked her, as a man, how could he Ju lay a hand on Su Ran? Especially facing the woman he had once liked so much. Su Ran cried for a long time before her emotions calmed down. Her eyes were swollen and her voice hoarse as she asked Su Zhen, "Dad, did I really do something wrong?" While disinfecting Su Ran's elbow with alcohol, Su Zhen said without looking up, "Yes." Upon hearing this, Su Ran couldn't control her tears any longer. Su Zhen said, "Back then, you were the one who preferred the rich over the poor. Now that he's indifferent to you, or has forcefully drawn a line, it's all normal. Dad understands he Ju just as well as you do, Ran. You must have done something that made him very angry, right?" Su Ran gritted her teeth and refused to speak. What else did Su Zhen not understand? Su Zhen wrapped Su Ran's elbow with gauze and didn't say much more, just advised, Ran, you've missed the best opportunity. Look forward now. Su Ran didn't understand. Why, at this point, was her father still blaming her? She was at fault, but did he Ju's seamless connection mean he was faultless? With red eyes, Su Ran angrily shouted, "Dad, you don't know anything at all, why do you casually guess about me? You only know what I shouldn't have done, but do you know that he Ju already has another woman by his side? It's because of this that he doesn't want me anymore." Looking at his daughter, who was almost going mad, Su Zhen couldn't help but shake his head and say, Ran, from beginning to end, it was you who didn't want him. Su Zhen continued, "You've never been together, never had a clear relationship. So no matter who he Ju is with now, you have no right to ask." Su Zhen said, "If you still want to win back he Ju, what you should do is correct your attitude, admit your past mistakes, make a real effort to let he Ju see your sincerity, instead of being aggressive and challenging a man's bottom line time and time again." Su Zhen's words were sincere, and he even teared up after speaking. When he was young, he had also liked a girl. She was very beautiful, with bright eyes when she smiled, and her voice was always soft. She always wore a high ponytail, but her family background wasn't very good. For the sake of a family alliance, he chose to marry a woman he didn't love. Since then, that girl had completely disappeared from his life. Su Zhen had looked for her for many years, but never found her. When a person has truly decided to cut ties with you, no matter what you do, it's too late. So from the beginning, Su Zhen had advised Su Ran not to follow in his footsteps. Moreover, he Ju had always treated Su Ran sincerely since childhood. Regardless of gender, once you've done something, you must have the courage to face the consequences. He Ju, due to a moment's misjudgment, lost the love of his life and didn't want his daughter to spend her life in regret as he had. But clearly, Su Ran was not taking it in. "I'm not wrong. I've apologized to him countless times, but he still treats me this way. It's clearly his fault, Dad, why do you insist on taking the side of an outsider?" Su Zhen opened his mouth, intending to say something more, but in the end, he just closed it, shook his head, and walked away. For a moment, Su Zhen even wondered if it were his daughter with that person, would her temperament not be so stubborn? Would she be much gentler? But there were no ifs. Because as soon as Su Zhen closed Su Ran's door, he saw Shen Yan standing at the corner of the stairs. "Su Zhen, I can't persuade her. You go talk to her yourself." After saying that, Su Zhen was ready to go upstairs, but Shen Yan suddenly let out a cold laugh and said, "Su Zhen, why does what you just said sound so awkward to me? You couldn't still be thinking about that little vixen after all these years, could you?" Su Zhen frowned. Shen Yan, can you watch your language? It's been so many years, is it interesting to keep harping on the same thing? Shen Yan laughed. I was wondering why you always treat He Ju differently. Turns out you empathize, huh? What's the matter? You and your daughter both have a soft spot for poor people. Find the original at. Su Zhen, looking at Shen Yan's ugly sneer, felt an inexplicable disgust and couldn't be bothered to argue, turning around to go upstairs. Seeing Su Zhen's indifferent attitude, Shen Yan got even more agitated and chased after him. Su Zhen. Why are you running? Guilty conscience. How can you dare to do and think but not to face it? Are you even a man? He Ju didn't know the situation at the Su family. At this moment, he had already cooked clear soup, eggs, and noodles. He felt that Si Hua would definitely like it. Just as He Ju had just brought out 2 steaming bowls of noodles, he hadn't even had time to take off his apron when someone hugged him from behind. He Ju looked at the fair little hand around his waist and couldn't help but curve his lips slightly. Awake. Si Hua nodded, her voice sweet. I smell the fragrance of the noodles, it's so fragrant. He Ju, you're amazing. He Ju smiled and pulled Si Hua over. Only you would say such nice things to coax me. Alright, you've been hungry all day, hurry up and eat something. Si Hua obediently sat down across from He Ju. Her natural face, though without makeup, still made He Ju's heart flutter. If it weren't for considering Si Hua's delicate health, he wouldn't easily let go of such a delicious meal like Si Hua. Si Hua grumbled, I don't know who was like a pack of wolves and almost wore me out. He Ju, what? Does Sister Si Hua think it's not enough? Si Hua's face instantly turned red. Don't talk nonsense, I didn't say that. He Ju couldn't help but laugh. Alright, I won't tease you anymore, hurry up and eat, finish eating and we'll take care of business. What business? Si Hua couldn't help but think crookedly. He Ju didn't want to explain either, teasing Si Hua like this really made him feel very comfortable. The two were eating quietly when He Ju received a message from Elder Jiang. He Ju, the response to this work has been very good, and the domestic market has been very hot. I plan to expand to the international market next month. Here is your payment, including the price for both domestic and international markets. I look forward to your next masterpiece. To access the premium content, go to. Immediately after, He Ju's phone vibrated again, and he looked at it carefully. The amount received, 10,000 yuan. He Ju just glanced at it and put it down. If it's been so hot in the domestic market, it's definitely worth more than this price, and entering the international market and going to the Paris fashion show, it's definitely worth more than this price. However, he currently didn't have the qualifications to negotiate terms with Elder Jiang, so he could only turn a blind eye for the time being. He Ju believed that in the near future, this money would return to his hands intact. Besides, this was only his first work. After finishing her noodles, Si Hua didn't wait for He Ju's reaction before standing up and running to the door. I have to go to the company tomorrow, so I'll go back to sleep tonight. He Ju hadn't even stood up before Si Hua had already run out and slammed the door shut. He Ju couldn't help but laugh and cry. He did not have the key to Si Hua's house, so running back like this was just changing locations. Men, it's fine if they don't indulge, but once they do, they can't hold back. He Ju cleaned up the bowls and chopsticks, and just as he was about to go find Si Hua, he received a call from Bai Yan. The auction will start in a week. We can go and scout the location now. I plan to take a few so-called jadeite gambling masters to the antique market. Do you want to come with me? With his charming wife at home, He Ju really didn't want to go out, but after thinking about it, He Ju agreed. Send me the location, little brother-in-law. Bai Yan keenly noticed He Ju's address and immediately stood up excitedly. Have you won over my sister? He Ju, I've won her over halfway. Bai Yan immediately became excited and changed his address without hesitation. Brother-in-law, you really are my true brother-in-law. Will my sister be willing for you to go out so late? Thinking of how he had worn Si Hua out last night, Hee-ju guessed that her legs were probably still sore, so she should be happy for Hee-ju to go out tonight, right? Thinking about it, Hee-ju smiled. It's fine, I'll tell her in a bit. Bai Yen, great. Hurry up and come over. After that, Bai Yen hung up the phone. Hee-ju sent a message to Si-hwa explaining his whereabouts, then quickly put on a windbreaker and went out. 5 black Rolls-Royces were parked in the underground parking lot of the antique market. Hee-ju and Bai Yen got out of the first car, and behind them came men and women, old and young. Hee-ju really hadn't thought of being so high-profile, but Bai Yen said, "Our family has never won at the antique market. These 5 cars are for compensation." For compensation? Hee-ju was shocked. Even if your luck is bad, you can't compensate with 5 Rolls-Royces, right? These were Rolls-Royces, not Volkswagens. Speaking of this, Bai Yan's heart was breaking. Every time my sister comes, she can compensate all the big and small companies in the country. What? Hee-ju suddenly asked, what about you? Bai Yan coolly patted the back of his head, compensate luxury cars. Hee-ju was instantly speechless. Let's not gamble, let's go back. Bai Yan grabbed Hee-ju, that won't do. Once this compensation enters the antique market, not gambling is not allowed, it's the rule. The rule? Hee-ju had never heard of such a rule, but soon a man in a suit came over and skillfully put prices and labels on these cars, obviously. Bai Yan often came, and every time he compensated with cars. Hee-ju, how many good cars does your family have? Bai Yan chuckled twice, pulling Hee-ju along as they walked inside. My family has a private parking lot, even bigger than the first middle school of City A. All our cars are parked there. My sister, in order to avoid drawing attention, usually drives some cheaper cars. Hee-ju suddenly fell silent, realizing that Si-hwa was the true, wealthy young lady, the princess in the castle. Hee-ju, what merits or abilities did he have? Bai Yan continued to chat enthusiastically with Hee-ju. In the future, once you marry my sister, you can visit the Bai family. We have estates and islands in the country too, it's just that there are many family rules, and under normal circumstances, outsiders are not allowed in. Also, my parents are both busy with their businesses abroad. If they knew my sister was in love, they might just fly back. Hee-ju was suddenly feeling overwhelmed. But don't feel pressured, my parents will be very pleased with you. Hee-ju was puzzled, how do you know? Bai Yan chuckled again, secret. Bai Yan wouldn't say that the whole family knew Si-hwa had someone she liked, they just didn't expose it. The group quickly arrived at the elevator, where 2 men wearing black masks and black suits stood. Each held a box containing masks identical to the ones they were wearing. Bai Yan handed one to Hee-ju, it's the rule here. Apart from the staff, everyone who comes here must wear a mask to avoid conflicts. After Hee-ju put on the mask, the 2 staff members pressed the elevator button. Bai Yan and Hee-ju, accompanied by more than a dozen so-called jade stone gambling masters, arrived at the 10th floor. Hee-ju, isn't the highest floor the 17th? Bai Yan, yes, the top 7 floors will only be opened on the day of the auction. So that's how it is. Hee-ju nodded thoughtfully. Bai Yan brought Hee-ju to the stone yard. As soon as they got out of the elevator, they entered the hotel corridor. At the end of the corridor, there were 2 people in black suits and black masks standing by the windows and at the end of the corridor. On both sides of the corridor, there were rows of long tables with many stones placed on top. These stones were no different from ordinary ones, almost all of them had poor color. There were many people coming and going, but very few stopped here. The price list was clearly written in front of the tables, ranging from tens to hundreds of dollars. The further back, the more expensive and better the color. Hee-ju glanced at the strange stones on the table, but Bai Yan and the group of masters behind him didn't even look at these stones. Hee-ju had been to the antique market, but had never been to such a high-end one. Bai Yan explained, almost all the stones here have been seen by the masters, and they can't find anything good. Even if they occasionally do, it's only inferior quality and not worth much. So generally, no one comes here. Hee-ju took another look at the stones on the table. Is that so? Bai Yen nodded and pulled Hee-ju forward. Yes, hurry up. I want to go and see the skills of these stone gambling masters up ahead. You can also help me judge and see how good they are. I don't want to lose everything again at the auction. If they're not good, I can change them. As he spoke, Bai Yen had already dragged Hee-ju into the hall. There were even more people here, both men and women, and every 10 meters along the wall, there was a bodyguard standing there. Hee-ju also keenly noticed that there were 4 cameras in positions with no blind spots above his head. The surrounding area was filled with stones arranged in glass cabinets. Each original stone had a number and a price tag. The surface of the original stones here was relatively smooth, and some even had jade or gold colors visible to the naked eye. The prices for such original stones were ridiculously high, ranging from tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands, but just because you can see the color doesn't mean you can find a treasure. It might all be in vain in the end. The people Bai Yen brought in entered the hall and started looking at the stones like the other customers. There were rules for the original stones here, you could only look with your eyes, not touch. If you found one you liked, you would ask the lady in Qipao standing on the side to take the number of the original stone, and then start the process of cutting the stone in the southwest corner of the hall. The original stones that could be touched were placed in the open air in the southeast corner of the hall, where many people had gathered. Everyone was arguing fiercely over a stone. The fun of gambling on stones was no more than this, wealth and poverty were just a momentary thing. Bai Yen curiously looked at these original stones, but he really couldn't see anything from them, so he could only hope that the stone gambling masters he brought could really find some treasures for him. Seeing this, Hee-ju didn't disturb Bai Yen, but turned and went back to the corridor where they had just come out of the elevator. The stones piled up there seemed to be considered waste by this group of people. But when Hee-ju passed by, he felt that this place was different. He couldn't say exactly how it was different, but his intuition told him that there would definitely be a surprise here that he wanted. People kept coming out of the elevator in batches, and Hee-ju kept observing the pile of stones, occasionally reaching out to touch them. Every person who passed by and saw Hee-ju's serious look found it ridiculous. Hee-ju was obviously an outsider, thinking he could find treasures in this pile of waste, but only. Sitting behind the monitoring room, an old man in casual clothes, holding a cup of Longjing tea in his hand, was staring at Hee-ju's every move with sharp eyes. Every time there was an auction, he would place this pile of stones at the entrance. Everyone who came to the auction site could see this pile of stones, including internationally recognized stone gambling masters. But no one had ever stopped, let alone carefully observed this pile of waste in everyone's eyes that he had brought back from the Golden Triangle. Hee-ju chose 2 stones in total, one large and one small, both of which were inconspicuously placed in the corner. The staff came over and gave Hee-ju 2 number cards, and Hee-ju took the cards and left. The old man saw that Hee-ju had picked those 2 stones and couldn't help but put down his tea, standing up in shock. His subordinates were also surprised. "Boss? What's wrong?" The old man didn't say anything, just looked at Hee-ju for a while before saying, "Go and find out about the background of this young man." His subordinates went to carry out the order, and the old man paced back and forth in the monitoring room, his face showing a hint of excitement. These were the 2 original stones he had deliberately placed there. It had been more than 20 years, and no one had ever paid attention to them. This was the first time. The old man couldn't help but sigh, talented people are truly emerging in this generation. The elder could no longer sit still. Leaning on his cane and assisted by his bodyguards, he left the monitoring room. He was curious to see if this young man would shine brightly again, or rather, if he would decide to cut the stone on the spot. If he chose to cut the stone right there and then, those 2 stones would surely cause a sensation in the jade gambling world. The auction in City A might even attract national attention. Although this would bring him some trouble, Lin Feng still wanted the young man to cut the stone on the spot. The value of the auction would be completely different then. By the time He-Ju returned to the hall, Bai Yan and the Jade gambling masters had already selected their stones and were cutting them one by one. 6 people had chosen 18 stones in total. He-Ju glanced at the price tags, and the total cost of 14 stones had already exceeded 3 million. The last 16 stones were all duds, with only 2 revealing red jade the size of a thumb. Bai Yan was instantly heartbroken. My 3 million. 3 million. He-Ju couldn't help but shake his head, and the so-called Jade gambling masters also hung their heads in shame. The crowd sighed and prepared to disperse. At that moment, He-Ju took out a large and a small stone and tossed them to the stone-cutting master. One is 10,000, cut it. Bai Yan immediately recognized that the stones in He-Ju's hands were from the pile of waste stones in the corridor and shook his head. You're spending 10,000 on that? Is that stone even worth 10,000? He-Ju was known for his generous tips, and the crowd gradually gathered back around. But when they saw that He-Ju was cutting a stone from the corridor's waste pile, they shook their heads. Young man is indeed too young, doesn't know the rules. Yeah, young man, you'd be better off using that 20,000 to pick an original stone in the hall. Indeed, even someone like me who knows nothing about jade gambling can tell that's just scrap. He-Ju, however, paid no attention to anyone. The machine was operating, and He-Ju watched intently, trusting his own judgment. Even Bai Yan thought He-Ju was crazy for wanting to make money, but it was just 20,000 after all. If it came to it, he could compensate. But then, the next second, the stone-cutting master stopped. Sir, we've hit green. With that one sentence, everyone in the hall rushed over. Bai Yan's eyes widened in disbelief. What? The crowd held their breath as the green machine couldn't be operated, and the master of stone cutting carefully took the stone off the machine. The stone was small, only the size of a baby's fist, and cutting it was delicate work. The master was sweating on his forehead and didn't dare to slack off. This was the first time he had cut a stone with green in it. Bai Yan stared without blinking, afraid that the master would make a mistake and ruin his treasure. A jade ring, top-quality ice type. The master of stone cutting was excited as he held the very ancient-looking ring. It exuded a sense of historical weight. Some people wanted to make sarcastic comments, but for some reason, when they saw the ring, they couldn't say a word. The master of stone cutting didn't dare to estimate the price casually, feeling somewhat embarrassed. At this time, an older staff member stepped forward, took the ring with a solemn expression, and didn't return it to Mr. He, but carefully examined it. Finally, under the gaze of everyone, he said the final price. This should be an artifact from hundreds of years ago. The price is immeasurable. Mr. He, I'm very sorry, we cannot estimate the price of this item. We need to discuss with our highest leaders before we can give a result. Can you please rest in our VIP room for the time being? The crowd couldn't help but gasp. The VIP here wasn't just about money. The Bai family was wealthy, right? But in the gambling stone field, if they couldn't produce green, no matter how much money they had, they were just ordinary people. Bai Yan was shocked. Was he hearing it right? Did He-Ju open a piece of waste stone and find an artifact? He-Ju politely smiled. Sure, but I still have another piece of stone here. The staff member showed even more respect to He-Ju. Please wait, I will bring the best stone-cutting master here to cut the stone for you, sir. He-Ju shook his head and pointed to the middle-aged man who had just cut the stone for him. Just let the two of them do it. The staff member was somewhat surprised. How could this gentleman refuse the best stone-cutting master? But the customer is God, and they couldn't go against the customer, so they respectfully stood aside. This time, no one dared to be disrespectful again, and almost everyone in the audience crowded around the stone-cutting master. The stone-cutting master quickly thanked He-Ju, who didn't change them, which meant that they also had the possibility of soaring to new heights. As long as they produced green again, their value could increase many times over. Therefore, the two of them were even more focused than before. In just a few minutes, the two of them were sweating profusely as they operated the machine. Everyone held their breath, and only He-ju calmly replied to Si-hwa's message, urging her to go to sleep quickly. Soon, the master exclaimed, "It's green again. Another green. It can be hard to make great work when it's stolen from." The look in everyone's eyes towards He-ju changed from disdain to shock and admiration. Bai Yan's legs went weak, the waste in the corridor actually produced 2 greens. After hearing Bai Yan's words, the crowd became even more restless. But He-ju's stone hadn't been completely opened yet, and everyone wanted to see what was inside this time. For a moment, the entire hall was relatively quiet, with only the sound of the stone-cutting tools. Soon, a fist-sized jade ice type appeared in front of everyone. The refreshing feeling that came with it made everyone present realize that it was definitely a top-quality jade raw stone, worth. The staff quickly brought the machine forward to test it, and finally reported, "This is a pure ice-type jade raw stone, worth 5 million. Congratulations to this gentleman." Bai Yan went crazy, 5 million. Oh my god. 5 million. Ha. Bai Yan pulled He-ju and spun around crazily, "Brother-in-law. You are my real brother-in-law. I only lost 5 million in gambling. When did I ever make 5 million? Oh my god." Bai Yan asked, "Did you find the stone in that pile of waste?" The entire hall fell silent at Bai Yan's question. He-ju nodded, "Yes, but..." Before He-ju could finish speaking, Bai Yan ran out like a leopard, "Money." The hall was completely plunged into madness, and everyone ran towards the corridor. The small stall that had been ignored was now completely cleaned out, and the speed was astonishing. He-ju didn't expect it to be so valuable, and he was also slightly surprised. He-ju was still happy. With this jade, he could make a set of jewelry for Si-hwa. Unfortunately, since the ring was an artifact, it should be handed over to the country. He-ju was already prepared for this. He-ju looked at the crowded corridor and couldn't help but shake his head slightly. Couldn't Bai Yan have let him finish speaking before running off? That was the real waste now. Even if all the stones were cut open, it wouldn't be possible to produce green again, at most, it would produce red. Red jade wouldn't make money. He-ju was invited by the staff to wait in the VIP room. Bai Yan was in high spirits at the moment, the price of the scrap stones here was not high. If it weren't for the first-come first-served rule, he would have wanted to buy them all. In contrast, the once bustling hall was now completely empty. Seeing such a scene, Lin Feng couldn't help but laugh. It seems that the jade gambling world is about to witness the rise of a new genius. Send word to all the families, make sure they come and see this extraordinary talent. Lin Feng had also looked up He-ju's information by now. An intern, a male college student, to have such a high talent was simply a defiance of the heavens. Lin Feng suddenly began to look forward to the auction. Would He-ju be able to set off a craze in the jade gambling world? Lin Feng smiled with satisfaction, that ring must be handed over to the state. Go tell Mr. He, we'll compensate him with 30 million, and we won't give him the ring. His subordinate took the order and left, while He-ju had not expected to receive a compensation of 30 million. Naturally, he accepted it gladly. Seeing the balance in his account, He-ju was stunned. He used to think that money was hard to earn, food was hard to come by, and Su-ran was hard to pursue. Who would have thought that after he stopped pursuing Su-ran, his life would take off like a rocket? This wealth was enough for He-ju to invest in the projects he wanted to. When the internship was over, He-ju thought, it was time for him to start his own company. He-ju was ready to leave when a staff member handed him a green card. "Sir, this is our auction's VIP card. With this card, on the day of the auction, you can enjoy the highest level of treatment here and occupy the best geographical position. You will also have the right of first choice." He-ju, what is the right of first choice? The staff member explained diligently, that means, on the day of the auction, if someone offers the same amount of money as you for the same item, we will give priority to you. He-ju nodded and casually asked a few questions before taking the green card and leaving. As He-ju came out, Bai Yan also came out with a dejected look. He-ju asked him, "Did you not get the green one?" Bai Yan's eyes lit up suddenly. "How did you know?" He-ju shrugged, "I took all the ones that could get the green." Bai Yan immediately looked devastated. "Why didn't you tell me earlier? You made me cut rocks for half a day." He-ju smiled, "You didn't wait for me to finish." Bai Yan sighed, then quickly looked at He-ju with bright eyes and dragged his arm. "You've earned back what I lost. Brother-in-law, come with me to the auction. I'll give you the car, and you can bet as you please. If you win, we split the money. How about it?" He-ju raised an eyebrow. "You're quite calculating." Read this novel and other amazing translated novels from the original source at the.poread.com. Bai Yan grinned. "So, are you in or not?" He-ju nodded. "I'm in." Bai Yan pushed it further. "Brother-in-law, teach me how to gamble on stones." He-ju replied, "That depends on talent." The two quickly reached the elevator, and just as they were about to enter, the elevator doors opened. He-ju instinctively looked up and made eye contact with Su Ran, who was standing at the front of the elevator. Even though both of them were wearing black masks, only their eyes and jawlines were visible, but they were very familiar with each other. He-ju coldly took 2 steps back, while Su Ran looked at He-ju in shock and asked, "He-ju, what are you doing here?" With that sentence, He-ju's identity was completely exposed. Bai Yan looked at the princess-like young lady in disbelief. If he didn't have to maintain a sense of gentlemanly demeanor, he would have immediately taken off his shoes and smacked her. Su Ran walked out of the elevator, trying to grab He-ju's arm, but Shen Yan quickly grabbed Su Ran's wrist. Then, with a sharp and icy gaze on He-ju, she said, "What a small world. I can even encounter someone I dislike at the stone gambling site. It seems that luck is not on my side today. What a bad omen." Su Jin immediately pulled his wife and daughter behind him, looking extremely displeased. "That's enough, stop embarrassing us." Su Jin was truly speechless at Shen Yan's foolishness. Where were they? This was the stone gambling site. Could just anyone come here? The fact that He-ju could access this place meant that he would definitely be at the auction a week later. And the first condition for entering the auction was to have spent or won over $1 million at the stone gambling site. Regardless of whether He-ju was the former or the latter, it definitely meant that the current He-ju was no longer the same as before. Shen Yan was very unhappy with Su Jin and couldn't help but roll her eyes. "Su Jin, you're useless." After that, Shen Yan forcibly dragged Su Ran away. No matter how many times Su Ran called He-ju's name, He-ju just stood with his hands in his pockets, ignoring her completely. It wasn't until Shen Yan and Su Ran disappeared from sight that Su Jin looked at He-ju apologetically. "Xiao-ju, don't take your aunt's words to heart. She's just a woman with a narrow mind. Don't stoop to her level. Although you and Xiao Ran can't be a couple, at least." He-ju interrupted Su Jin. "Mr. Su, I appreciate your care over the years, but the actions of your wife and daughter have made me very uncomfortable. I will no longer entangle with your daughter. Please also take care of your daughter. Otherwise, next time, the Su family won't just be dealing with a simple scandal. Please, Mr. Su, take care of yourself." Su Jin's face stiffened, and today, the Su family inexplicably trended online, with rumors about the food safety under the Su family's name being completely unqualified, along with many on-site photos and videos circulating. Su Jin knew that this was definitely retaliation, but he didn't expect that He-ju would be the one behind it. Su Jin was relieved that it trended in the early hours of the morning and was taken down by the public relations team after a few minutes, but it cost him a lot of money and connections to suppress it. Otherwise, he wouldn't have come here to test the waters today. Su Jin suddenly realized that this was just a warning from He-ju, which was why it was released in the early hours. If it had been during peak video traffic. For the Su family, although it wouldn't directly lead to bankruptcy, it would be enough to cause them a lot of trouble. Just as Su Jin was about to say something, He-ju had already taken the elevator down. At that moment, Su Jin was filled with mixed emotions. He knew that He Ju would be successful, but he thought it would take at least another 10 years. But he didn't expect. He Ju, who had only been in society for a few months, was already showing signs of success, which had already exposed the Su family to some risks. What about the future? Su Zhen's heart was filled with waves of shock and turmoil. What kind of person had his daughter missed out on? When he arrived at the garage, He Ju happened to see Qiu Shaoze with a group of people wearing masks. Bai Yan smiled, a cold glint flashing in his eyes. What a coincidence that we meet on this day. He Ju looked at Qiu Shaoze, a faint cold smile playing on his lips, and asked Bai Yan, will he also come to the auction? Bai Yan nodded. Usually, those who come to the stone gambling site during this time are preparing for the auction a week later. Unless there are special circumstances, they will all come. Only then did He Ju suppress his emotions. That's good. It was time to settle scores and seek revenge. He Ju's good buddy, Bai Yan, almost immediately guessed what He Ju wanted to do. Running this kind of place was all about one thing, gambling. He Ju would make Qiu Shaoze lose everything. For this kind of arrogant young master, this was the best punishment. Bai Yan had no idea He Ju was so formidable before, but after this incident, he was even more certain that he had struck gold. Good thing he had brought him back to be his sister's husband. He Ju and Bai Yan didn't cause any trouble and quietly returned to their car. As they brushed past Qiu Shaoze and his entourage, Qiu Shaoze couldn't help but pause, turning his head to glance at He Ju and Bai Yan as they headed towards the Rolls-Royce, instantly dispelling any doubts in his mind. Someone asked Qiu Shaoze, young master. What's wrong? Qiu Shaoze pointed at He Ju's retreating figure. Do you recognize that person? Qiu Shaoze's subordinate shook his head. They're all wearing masks, and besides, what kind of place is this? It's not somewhere just anyone can come, right? Young master, you might have seen wrong. Qiu Shaoze scoffed with a sneer. Indeed, how could He Ju, that pauper, afford to come to a place like this? Or drive a luxury car? He was being overly sensitive. Qiu Shaoze and his group entered the elevator, unaware that this moment of disdain was about to bring a catastrophic blow to his life. He Ju originally had little interest in the auction, but when he found out that Qiu Shaoze and others would also be going, he inexplicably looked forward to it. But with a week left until the auction, he could only wait patiently. He Ju's life returned to normal. The next morning, Si Hua went to work, and He Ju also went to work. At lunchtime, He Ju ordered 2 meals and carried them to the president's office. Si Hua's assistant, Xiao Xiao, saw He Ju and let him in without stopping him. However, office romance was still somewhat risky. Xiao Xiao, who wanted to go eat, had to temporarily suppress his hunger and wait outside, ordering takeout. At this time, Si Hua was sitting in front of the computer, looking at documents. When someone entered the office, she thought it was her assistant bringing her food and said without looking up, "Put it aside, I'll eat it later." He Ju chuckled lightly, "Are you sure you want to wait to eat? It'll be cold later." Hearing He Ju's voice, Si Hua was first stunned, then looked up, pleasantly surprised. "How did you come here?" He Ju put the food aside, walked around the desk, and went to Si Hua, immediately lifting her chin and kissing her lips. "Who let you run away last night? You kept me up all night." Si Hua was both nervous and shy, quickly pushing He Ju away, coquettishly saying, "Don't make a fuss, this is the office." After speaking, Si Hua stood up, wearing high heels, and closed the blinds in the office, then locked the door, and quickly returned to He Ju's side. He Ju didn't stop her, but instead smiled even more. It seemed that his sister Si Hua also missed him and his little brother. As soon as Si Hua walked over, he immediately hugged her, feeling the warmth and softness in his arms, which was very comfortable. He Ju sighed and involuntarily reached for Si Hua's black stockings and tight skirt, and took out a condom from his pocket. Si Hua was shocked. "You carry this thing with you?" He Ju, "If I didn't carry it, how could I catch you?" "Sister Si Hua, you may not have much stamina, but you can run pretty fast." As He Ju's hands became more and more daring, Sihua quickly pressed down on Heju's hand. "It'll tear if you keep pulling." Heju laughed, and with both hands, he lifted Sihua and placed her on the office desk. "If it tears, then don't wear it." As he spoke, there was a rip sound, and Sihua exclaimed, "You, Heju." "Heju, baby, I'm here." The next moment, Heju sealed her lips tightly, and Sihua could only hum and moan, helplessly clinging to Heju's shoulders, letting him have his way, her eyes blurred, and her dark hair scattered on the table. Sihua looked at the ceiling, unable to help but wonder, how did she end up like this with this man? No one told her the reason, but she willingly covered her mouth and refused to make a sound in the end. And what she would get in the end was even more fierce love from Heju. The food on the side had long gone completely cold. Xiao Xiao had eaten takeout and dozed off outside for a long time. It was almost 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and there was still no sign of Heju coming out. Xiao Xiao couldn't wait any longer. He was about to go and talk to the director of another company about cooperation. How could there be no movement at all? Just as Xiao Xiao was about to knock on the door, Heju came out spiritedly from inside, looking very happy, with a ruddy complexion and a smile on his lips. "She's eating, go find her a change of clothes." As soon as he heard this, Xiao Xiao's drowsiness disappeared instantly, his face blushing, pointing in the direction Heju had left, stuttering, You. After saying so much, Xiao Xiao didn't say anything useful. Xiao Xiao covered his mouth in surprise, completely unable to believe that Sihua would be in the office with Heju. It was over. Her image of the aloof President Si had collapsed. When Xiao Xiao returned to the office, Sihua had finished her meal and was sitting in front of the computer working. However, Xiao Xiao still keenly noticed that Sihua's blouse was wrinkled, and the button on the collar had actually fallen off. Her stockings were gone, and she was only wearing a black tight skirt, which was not so neat. Sihua had reapplied her makeup, pinned her hair behind her head, with a few strands of dark hair falling on both sides of her face, adding to her already charming demeanor with her rosy lips and natural blush. Oh my God! Xiao Xiao was starting to envy Heju. The beautiful and alluring President Si had actually been won over by a little brat, both body and heart. If this were to be known, who knows how many men would be crying in secret. Xiao Xiao could even tell that Sihua was in a very good mood. Could it be? Is this what a woman nurtured by love looks like? Unbelievable, unbelievable. Xiao Xiao handed the spare clothes in his arms to Sihua. "President Si, these are new clothes, ordered by Mr. He." A hint of a smile flashed in Sihua's eyes, and a hint of shyness even quickly crossed her face, then quickly returned to normal. "Got it, you go out first, I'll be right there." Xiao Xiao was just about to leave when Sihua's voice rang out again. The words that followed made Xiao Xiao feel as if she was hearing the sound of heaven. "Sihua, you did very well today. Your salary will be doubled. Remember to inform the finance department." Xiao Xiao's eyes widened in surprise, and she bowed at a 90-degree angle towards Sihua. "Thank you, Director Si." Sihua softly in acknowledgement and continued to instruct, "From now on, whenever Heju arrives, cancel all external business activities." Xiao Xiao's eyes bulged, and she asked subconsciously, "Should we put a bigger bed in your resting room?" After all, there was a partition in Sihua's office, which contained a small bed, a sofa, a coffee table, and a television, with mirrors on the ceiling. It was Sihua's place for napping. After asking, Xiao Xiao immediately wished she could bite her tongue off, her face turning pale with fear as she quickly bowed her head, filled with 100 regrets. What nonsense is she spouting? It's over. There goes the double salary. Unexpectedly, Sihua seemed to seriously consider it for a moment before saying, "All right, you can arrange that." Xiao Xiao was astonished. "Huh? Are we really getting a big bed? Oh my goodness. How embarrassing. Director Si. You really have no restraint. And you spoil Mr. He so much. I'm so jealous." Sihua waved her hand, "Go on out." Xiao Xiao left, and Sihua quickly took her clothes into the resting room to change into a clean set. This time, it was a white mandarin collar shirt with a black skirt, and she changed into a pair of black high heels. She tied her hair into a low ponytail, making her delicate face even more charming. Sihua was ready and took the elevator downstairs with Xiao Xiao and the directors. Leaving the office always meant passing by the investment department. Sihua was very restrained, her face showing no expression, but her eyes couldn't help but search for Heju's figure. Heju was bold, holding a cup of water just as he came out of the pantry. Seeing Sihua, he immediately flashed a big grin and waved, "Hello, Director C." Everyone watched Heju with trepidation, thinking, has this man gone mad? Who doesn't know that Director C hates those without manners the most? The directors thought, where did this fool come from? Xiao Xiao, brother, tone it down. Put those big teeth away. Sihua calmly nodded, hello, keep up the good work. After speaking, Sihua passed by Heju. Heju smiled even more joyfully, will do. The crowd was, utterly dumbfounded, their mouths agape as if they could fit an entire egg inside. After Sihua left, Heju went to his usual office position, but all his colleagues gathered around. Acheng was the first to speak. Heju, tell us, what's your relationship with C General? Others chimed in, yeah, Heju, did you join Xingyao because of C General's relationship? Yeah, when we usually greet C General, she always ignores us. I'd be satisfied with just a nod from C General, but she actually talked to you so much. Come on, tell us, what's your relationship with C General? Heju smiled, she's my girlfriend. Silence, a deadly silence. Finally, someone sneered, are you kidding? Heju, you really don't know your place. How dare you make such a joke? So everyone laughed. They laughed at Heju's overestimation of himself. I'd believe you if you said you were related to C General, but saying she's your girlfriend is taking the joke too far. Heju, have you lost your mind over a woman? Seriously, maybe Heju looks good and just happened to catch C General in a good mood today, that's why she responded to him. After a few laughs, they teased Heju a bit and dispersed. Heju didn't mind, he just shook his head and continued to work on the planning proposal. Only Lu Jia, standing in the tea room, with her usually bright eyes, was now completely dim and lifeless. Before today, she didn't know who she had lost to. After today, she understood completely. No one believed that Heju could be connected to the president of Xingyao, because the person who could be the boss of Xingyao was the big shot of the entire business world in City A. Heju had no family background, no connections. Even if he looked handsome, who would believe that he could be with Sihua? But Lu Jia believed it. She understood Heju. Heju wouldn't make such a joke lightly. Even when he pursued Su Ran back then, he didn't claim that Su Ran was his girlfriend, only that she was the one he was pursuing. And just now, when Sihua saw Heju, although she pretended to be calm, Lu Jia accurately caught the fleeting joy in her eyes. Girls understand girls the best. She knew what that meant. Lu Jia also saw Sihua's figure. She was the girl who appeared in Heju's circle of friends, the same girl she saw standing next to Heju at the movie theater last time. Although Lu Jia didn't want to admit it, she had to admit that Sihua and Heju were really well matched. And one day in the future, everyone would see that what Heju said was definitely not a lie. Lu Jia also believed that Heju was worthy of Sihua. A colleague entered the tea room and patted Lu Jia's shoulder. Jia, what are you doing here? Lu Jia's tears fell without any warning. She hurriedly wiped them away. It's nothing, I'll go out first. Just then, Heju got up to go and print something from the printer, and happened to meet Lu Jia face to face. Lu Jia's eyes were still filled with glistening tears, her nose red, looking like she had been wronged. Heju instinctively asked her, Jia. What's wrong, who bullied you? Lu Jia shook her head, still smiling gently at Heju, it's nothing, it's just that I accidentally hit my head earlier and it hurts a bit. Hee-ju, do you need to go to the hospital to get it checked? Lu Jia shook her head with a smile, intending to show Hee-ju her best side, but the tears kept falling from the corners of her eyes. Hee-ju was stunned, his expression finally becoming serious. Jia, are you really okay? Lu Jia wanted to say that she was fine, but the pain in her heart made it hard for her to maintain her smile. Her face turned pale, and in the end, in Hee-ju's astonished gaze, Lu Jia's legs gave way and she collapsed towards Hee-ju. If Hee-ju didn't move, Lu Jia would definitely have fallen and been seriously injured. Hee-ju hesitated for a moment because of Si-hwa, but just as Lu Jia was about to hit the ground and everyone gasped, he reached out and caught her by the shoulder. Lu Jia leaned on Hee-ju's shoulder, her eyes almost closing, but she still managed to say to Hee-ju, "I'm sorry, I've caused trouble for you." After speaking, the water cup in Lu Jia's hand fell to the ground, making a crisp sound that attracted the attention of the entire office. Everyone gathered around, and the scene became chaotic. Hee-ju held on to Lu Jia, feeling a bit anxious. "What are you all looking at? Call 911. After that, Hee-ju picked up Lu Jia and carried her in his arms. At that moment, Bai Yen happened to come down from upstairs and saw the scene. He immediately put his phone in his pocket. "I knew we shouldn't have worked in the same company." As he spoke, he ran towards Hee-ju. Seeing Bai Yen, Hee-ju's nervous heart finally calmed down. Bai Yen was also very quick to react. He immediately rushed into the crowd and took Lu Jia from Hee-ju. "You go and drive." Hee-ju turned and ran, and Bai Yen immediately carried Lu Jia out of the company. When they reached the company's entrance, Hee-ju had already brought the car, but it was Si-hwa's other car. The two of them worked together to put Lu Jia in the back seat, and Hee-ju drove off. Bai Yen immediately called the traffic police to inform them, "Hello, our license plate number is XXXXX, we are currently driving on Renmin West Road, and we have an unconscious patient in the car who needs to be taken to the First People's Hospital. My friend is driving, can you help us clear the way?" After hanging up the phone, Bai Yen checked Lu Jia's breathing and finally breathed a sigh of relief. Hee-ju was completely focused on driving. In about 2 minutes, 2 traffic police motorcycles appeared on either side of their car. Hee-ju rolled down the window, and the traffic police immediately said, "Follow us." Hee-ju replied immediately, "Okay, thank you." Bai Yen started calling the emergency department of the First People's Hospital. Hee-ju followed the traffic police, and what would normally take half an hour, they completed in 7 minutes. Lu Jia was taken to the emergency room in the shortest time possible. Hee-ju and Bai Yen couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief, their foreheads covered in beads of sweat. They looked at each other and smiled. "Bai Yen, why are you driving my sister's car?" Hee-ju couldn't help but facepalm. "I went to your sister's office at noon, and she gave this to me. I have to work overtime today, and I was thinking of opening it after work for convenience." Bai Yen clicked his tongue twice. "Aren't you making too much of a fuss? Aren't you afraid of being discovered?" Hee-ju took a deep breath. "It's not really good to always hide and skulk around, is it?" Bai Yen nodded in agreement. "How about we hold a press conference to announce your relationship?" Hee-ju instantly punched Bai Yen. "Be a person, will you?" Bai Yen dodged with a laugh. "All right, I'll stop teasing you. What's the deal with Lu Jia? How did she suddenly faint?" Speaking of this, Hee-ju was also puzzled. Maybe she encountered something. Bai Yen frowned at Hee-ju. "Why do I feel like it's because of you?" Upon hearing Bai Yen's question, Hee-ju couldn't help but furrow his brows slightly. "Impossible, right? I didn't do anything." Bai Yen sighed. "But Jia likes you, and haven't you noticed that she's been losing weight recently?" There was a hint of helplessness in Hee-ju's eyes, "But I can't do anything about it. I can't reciprocate her feelings." Bai Yen shook his head. "What is love in this world?" Bai Yen said, "You should call her family." Hee-ju was speechless. "But I don't have her family's phone number." Bai Yen slapped his head and immediately took out his phone. "All right, I'll have someone look it up. You wait here. Before He Ju could say anything, Bai Yen had already walked to a quiet place to make the call. At that moment, the doctor came out, Lu Jia's family. He Ju hurried over, I'm here. Doctor, who are you to Lu Jia? He Ju, I'm her colleague. Her mother is on her way. Doctor, just tell me what you need, and if there's a fee, I'll pay it now. Doctor, Lu Jia is not in serious condition. She was just temporarily shocked, and combined with her recent malnutrition, it caused her to faint. She's already on a glucose drip. You should go get her something to eat, and she should wake up soon. Now go to the lobby to pay the fee. He Ju agreed repeatedly, standing at the door of the emergency room for a long time before turning to go to the lobby to pay the fee. Shocked. He Ju had already guessed what it was, probably the night he clearly stated that Si Hua was his girlfriend. Malnutrition, probably since the night when He Ju once again clearly stated that he had a girlfriend. Lu Jia's malnutrition was caused by her inability to eat after that. He Ju hadn't expected that he had become so important to Lu Jia. After paying the fee, He Ju went to buy food for Lu Jia, and Bai Yen also contacted Lu Jia's parents. When applying for the job, there is a section to fill in emergency contact phone numbers. Lu Jia filled in her mother's. Bai Yen directly asked the HR department for the phone number. After confirming that Lu Jia was not in danger, she was transferred to a regular ward. Bai Yen, thinking that they were classmates, arranged for Lu Jia to stay in a VIP ward. The money He Ju paid was enough for her stay. When Si Hua returned to the company, she heard that a girl from the investment department had fainted, and He Ju and Bai Yen had taken her to the hospital. There were also rumors that He Ju's car looked a lot like Si Hua's. Si Hua really wanted to tell them, this is not a rumor, it's the truth. But at this time, Si Hua didn't have time to deal with these rumors, and she also got through to He Ju's phone. He Ju briefly told her about Lu Jia, and Si Hua's heart relaxed slightly. But soon, He Ju confessed to her, Lu Jia likes me, she confessed to me once and I rejected her. The night you returned to China, I also clearly stated that I have a girlfriend, and maybe that's why she fell ill. A hint of conflict appeared on Si Hua's delicate face. Lu Jia likes He Ju. A love rival. Is this? Si Hua was silent for 2 seconds, carefully considering her words, what do you want me to do? He Ju felt that it was better to let Lu Jia face Si Hua directly than to keep the situation unresolved. He wanted to be with Si Hua, and he also hoped that Lu Jia could get over her troubles soon. He Ju made a decisive decision, do you have time now? Can you come to the hospital with me to see her? Si Hua couldn't help but be slightly surprised, is this a good idea? He Ju, although I don't think it's a good idea, there's no other way, is there? If she continued to dwell on the past and this relationship that couldn't even begin, the only one who would suffer would be Lu Jia. In the end, Si Hua agreed, I'll come right away. After the call, Si Hua instructed Xiao Xiao to prepare some nutritional supplements, then arranged the rest of her work and left the office directly. After the call, He Ju entered Lu Jia's ward with a food box of lean pork congee and corn rib soup. Lu Jia was already awake, sitting gracefully against the bed, and when she saw He Ju come in, she seemed a bit nervous, I'm sorry for causing trouble for you too. He Ju walked over with the food box, we are classmates and colleagues, there's nothing to be sorry about. It's normal to help each other. Jia, have something to eat first. Bai Yen also came over and set up a small table next to the bed. He Ju laid out the congee and ribs, the doctor said you should eat light food for now, so just make do with this. Lu Jia didn't make a fuss, she immediately sat up properly, still with a needle in her hand and an abnormal paleness on her face, looking delicate and weak, making people want to protect her. Bai Yen felt that He Ju was a bit cruel to Jia. For a moment, He Ju also felt a bit soft-hearted and couldn't help but say a few more words, Jia, eat well in the future. You're an adult now, you need to learn to take care of yourself. Lu Jia smiled happily, her eyes sparkling like the Milky Way in the sky, nodding obediently, her voice soft. I will eat well, I've just been sick recently, that's why. I'm usually very healthy, you don't need to worry about me. After speaking, Lu Jia wanted to open the food box and eat on her own. He-Ju stepped forward and helped her open the food box. Let me do it, it's not convenient for you with the needle. After setting it up, He-Ju handed the spoon to Lu Jia, then found a place to sit and wait for Lu Jia's family to arrive. Bai Yan shook his head and sat down with He-Ju. The whole room was filled with the sound of Lu Jia chewing. Just as Lu Jia finished her meal, there was a knock on the door of the ward, and the three of them looked up. Si Hua appeared at the door of the ward with her assistant Xiao Xiao. Lu Jia was instantly baffled. Had her incident actually alarmed Si Hua? However, Lu Jia quickly realized that it was quite normal for Si Hua to be alerted, considering that the person who had brought her to the hospital was Si Hua's boyfriend. Bai Yan stood up and called out, "Sis." Lu Jia was baffled again. President Si is your sister? Bai Yan nodded, my own sister. Lu Jia was also shocked. It turned out that Bai Yan wasn't just an idle playboy, he was a true young master. Si Hua nodded at Bai Yan and then turned to look at Lu Jia, who was sitting on the bed with little strength. I heard you fainted, so I came to visit you specially. How are you feeling? Nothing serious, I hope. She then placed all the items she was carrying onto the cabinet. Lu Jia, looking at the expensive gifts, couldn't help but feel anxious. President Si, you're too kind. There's no need, I'm really fine. Si Hua smiled, just lie down. Fainting at the company counts as a work injury, so this is all appropriate. He-Ju also walked over and, in front of Lu Jia, wrapped his arms around Si Hua's slender waist like willow branches, politely smiling at Lu Jia. Just listen to our Hua Hua, and take good care of yourself. Lu Jia's face turned pale for a moment, and her eyes dimmed, but she quickly looked up and smiled at He-Ju and Si Hua. Thank you, I'm really fine. Si Hua also felt a little uneasy. If Lu Jia had the same temperament as Su Ran, she might have gone too far, even more so than He-Ju. But Lu Jia looked like a gentle and lovely little beauty, her emotions written all over her face. Si Hua felt sorry for her, as if she saw herself in the past. Si Hua remembered that if she hadn't made the decisive decision to leave everything behind and return to China, Lu Jia today might have been the old Si Hua. She was much luckier than Lu Jia. Thinking of this, Si Hua couldn't help but take He-Ju's hand off her waist, then walked over and patted Lu Jia's head gently, her voice soft. Take a good rest, don't worry about work for now. Take a long vacation and relax. Lu Jia's eyes turned red again for a moment. She finally understood why He-Ju liked Si Hua. A sister so gentle, beautiful, and understanding. If she were He-Ju, she would like her too. Bai Yan stood aside, feeling a little dumbfounded. Normally, wouldn't rivals be jealous when they met? Why did Lu Jia and Si Hua seem to have a sense of missed opportunity? Si Hua said a few more comforting words and then walked away, holding He-Ju's arm. Bai Yan waited until Lu Jia's parents arrived at the ward before leaving quietly. Seeing her parents' anxious and flustered appearance, Lu Jia's strong front collapsed all at once, and she burst into tears, her tears falling like broken beads. Mom. Lu Jia's mother rushed over and hugged her daughter. It's okay, Jia Jia, it will pass soon, and everything will be fine. Lu Jia cried so heartbreakingly, her tears blurring her vision, and her whole body shivering with cold. She cried for her weakness, for her helplessness, for having to admit that Si Hua was truly worthy of He-Ju, and she cried for her youth, her years of unspoken love that she could no longer express. When did she miss her chance with He-Ju? Perhaps it was when she knew she liked He-Ju but didn't dare to confess. Perhaps it was when she decided to help He-Ju pursue Su Ran, or maybe it was the day Su Ran rejected He-Ju, and she, out of cowardice, thought it was best to give He-Ju some space to calm down. It was her own assumption that she and He-Ju had a long future together. But in reality, at that moment of hesitation, she had already lost any chance. Her heart really hurt. If Si Hua were like Su Ran, she would definitely have the courage to pursue, but Si Hua was such a good person. Lu Jia couldn't do such a thing. So, helpless, she could only feel heartbroken. Lu Jia's mother could only hold her, comforting her with a heart full of pity. He Ju was a good kid, but he belonged to someone else now. Perhaps Lu Jia once had a chance, but who can understand the workings of fate? Even the nurse passing by Lu Jia's ward, hearing her painful cries, was slightly moved. What has this little girl been through? A passerby shook their head and sighed. Everyone has their own hardships in this world. Someone looked up at the sky and asked softly, if everyone is having such a hard time, who is truly happy? Si Hua walked out of the hospital arm in arm with He Ju, feeling a bit low. He Ju held her waist and asked softly, what's wrong? Si Hua's voice was muffled. I was thinking, if you didn't like me, then I would be the one lying in the hospital today. He Ju lifted Si Hua's chin and, upon closer inspection, saw a hint of redness at the corner of her eyes. He Ju's heart immediately felt a pang, and he bent down to kiss the corner of her eye, soothingly saying, darling, I like you, not just now, but in the future too. Si Hua asked softly, so in the future, will you only like me? There won't be anyone else. He Ju suddenly laughed, and couldn't help but lightly pinch Si Hua's nose, full of affection. What if I don't like you? With just a simple joke, Si Hua's crystal-clear eyes filled with tears. He Ju immediately realized the seriousness of the situation and quickly said seriously, I was just joking, darling. Si Hua pouted and cried. He Ju felt at a loss, his mind blank, and quickly wiped away her tears, speaking with a bit of a stutter, sister, I was just joking, how could I not like you? I like you so much, otherwise I wouldn't have let you come here today. Si Hua humphed and then laughed, her voice slightly hoarse, you really talk nonsense. He Ju's heart finally settled, silly, it was just a joke, and it broke my heart to see you cry. Si Hua looked at him with a spoiled look, turned her head in a huff, humph. Don't make this kind of joke in the future. He Ju helplessly laughed, okay. I won't. After that, He Ju leaned over and kissed Si Hua's soft cheek, stop crying, my wife. Si Hua's heart immediately softened, her whole body feeling weak, a blush creeping onto her face, and she answered softly, I won't cry, let's go back to the company. He Ju smiled, why go back to the company? He couldn't go back to the company now. Si Hua was crying her eyes out outside, and all he could feel was heartache. But if it happened in a place he liked, he would only make his sister Si Hua cry even harder. He Ju wrapped his arms around her waist and led her towards the underground parking lot. Be good, baby, husband is taking you to a place, we won't be going back to the office today. Si Hua was very innocent, looking up at him and asking, where are we going? He Ju pretended to be mysterious, you'll know when we get there. Si Hua obediently stopped asking. He Ju patted her little head, oh my, how come he was growing fonder and fonder of the adorable and well-behaved Si Hua. She was completely different from the first time they met at the airport. He Ju and Si Hua quickly left the hospital. At this moment, in the hospital lobby, a person stood up from the bench, carefully saving the photos he had just taken, his gaze following the direction He Ju had left in. It was Chiu Shaozi, his eyes bloodshot with resentment and unwillingness, his hands clenched tightly at his sides, and the veins on his forehead bulging, indicating the extent of his anger. Chiu Shaozi had never understood what he had done to offend Si Hua, given that he and Si Hua were strangers. Now, he finally understood. It turns out it was He Ju, this poor devil, who had been whispering in Si Hua's ear. Fuck. Out of anger, Chiu Shaozi kicked over the nearby trash can. The people around were startled by Chiu Shaozi's actions and quickly stood up, preparing to move away from this abnormal man. Chiu Shaozi's chest heaved up and down. So, He Ju was being maintained by Si Hua. Is Si Hua venting her anger on her lover? Yes, Qiu Shaoze always felt that the relationship between He Ju and Si Hua was abnormal. Otherwise, why would Si Hua favor He Ju? Read this novel and other amazing translated novels from the original source at the. He went to Starshine Group several times to find Si Hua, but was always turned away. The security even refused to let him in. Every time he called Si Hua's assistant to make an appointment, he was ignored. Over time, she even stopped answering his calls. Because of this, his father's attitude towards him became increasingly hostile, and he was not allowed to touch the family business. Recently, he even considered bringing back the illegitimate child from outside. This made Qiu Shaoze feel a deep sense of crisis, and his mother blamed him every day, blaming him for messing with the wrong people outside. Qiu Shaoze had no idea where he had offended Si Hua, to the extent that it directly affected whether the Qiu family could continue to survive in City A. If he didn't take over the family business, the stock price of the Qiu group would rise. If he touched the business, the stock price would fall. Qiu Shaoze had to admit that the manipulative hand behind this was too long, and he was helpless. At this moment, Qiu Shaoze even thought that since He Ju could be maintained by Si Hua, then he should also be able to become an honored guest of Si Hua, right? After all, his conditions were much better than He Ju's. As long as he could successfully win over Si Hua, then he could do whatever he wanted with He Ju, right? In City A, without He Ju protected by Si Hua, nothing would be a problem. Crushing He Ju would be as easy as crushing an ant. Thinking of this, Qiu Shaoze's mood finally calmed down a lot, and a hint of a smile appeared on his face. It wasn't in vain to come to the hospital today. At this time, He Ju had no idea that he had caught Qiu Shaoze's attention. Si Hua sat in the passenger seat, and he drove the car directly to a place he had accidentally stumbled upon before. This was the suburbs, and there was nothing around except for trees and lush green grass. Si Hua looked at the blue sky, white clouds, and grass, and couldn't help but wonder, what are we doing here? He Ju smiled, didn't answer, just got out of the car and pulled Si Hua out as well, then pushed her into the back seat and put up the partition. All the windows around were opaque from the outside, and He Ju even turned on the air conditioning. If Si Hua didn't know what He Ju was going to do, she would really be stupid. Si Hua's face turned red, and she stuttered, He Ju, this isn't very appropriate. He Ju made all the preparations and got into the car, immediately pulling her into his arms and running his fingers up her skirt. He Ju answered softly, this is very good, Sister Si Hua. I think about this way 100 times a day. Since we're out, let's not go back today. At this moment, Si Hua's phone rang, and she quickly pressed He Ju's mischievous fingers and said, I'll take this call first. He Ju was accommodating, you take it. But his hand didn't listen. Si Hua could only bite her lip, answer the call, and Zhang Xiaoxiao's voice quickly came through, Boss, I'm back at the company, the meeting this afternoon. Si Hua interrupted before Zhang Xiaoxiao could finish, cancel for now. Have a video conference at home tonight at 8 o'clock, and no. He Ju watched Si Hua, not missing any expression. The more Si Hua needed to speak, the more unrestrained he became. Si Hua's forehead was sweating, and she endured to finish the next part of the conversation, I'll be absent. After the call, Zhang Xiaoxiao's face turned as red as an apple. She wasn't a young girl, and naturally knew what Si Hua's tone meant. Oh my goodness. It's still daytime. So embarrassing. Zhang Xiaoxiao quickly informed the others. Anyway. Si Hua wasn't going back to the company, so she would leave first. She decided to go pick up her child's father after work today. In a certain car. Si Hua felt a little embarrassed, just now, you. Before she could finish speaking, He Ju covered her mouth with his and lifted her up, sitting face to face. In that instant, the pleasant fragrance on Si Hua's body entered his nose, and He Ju was deeply intoxicated. Si Hua's hands were on his shoulders, wait a minute. Wait? How could a man in the heat of the moment wait? He Ju couldn't care less about anything else, picked her up, and immediately took action. Sihua couldn't help but tilt her head back, and her swan-like neck appeared in front of Hiju, who was instantly captivated. He simply couldn't get enough. A four-wheeled car continued to sway until nightfall. When Hiju drove back, Sihua was already too tired to keep her eyes open. Hiju carried her to the driver's seat and tied his clothes around Sihua's waist. There was no other way. Hiju couldn't control himself and had torn her skirt. Hiju brought Sihua back home, very satisfied that at this moment, Su Ran received a text message from a stranger. There was no text, just a picture. It was a photo of Hiju kissing Sihua's cheek at the hospital entrance. The man was handsome, the woman was beautiful. It was incredibly eye-catching. Su Ran was working in her office when she saw the picture, and her pupils immediately dilated. This woman. Su Ran's brow twitched fiercely, she remembered. She had seen the silhouette of this woman in Hiju's social circle. The woman who accompanied Hiju to Lijiang, to Jade Dragon Snow Mountain, it was her. Su Ran felt a deep sense of crisis. Why did Su Ran feel? This woman looked so familiar. Su Ran immediately screenshotted Sihua's face and sent it to her assistant to investigate. But who would have thought? Her assistant quickly replied, "This is the chairman of Starshine Group, Sihua. Do you need to check? Isn't this common knowledge?" What? Su Ran stood up abruptly, staring at the picture in disbelief. The current chairman of Starshine Group? When did she get involved with Hiju? No wonder Hiju's heart changed so quickly, it turns out he had latched onto a better leg to stand on. Su Ran was going crazy. She immediately tried to check Hiju's social circle, but Hiju had blocked her. She couldn't see anything, and the messages she sent only returned with a red exclamation mark. Su Ran couldn't stay calm, pacing back and forth in the office before finally grabbing her bag and rushing out of the office. Su Ran was smart this time. Instead of going directly to Hiju's door, she drove to his house and waited in a hidden spot for her prey to appear. Su Ran thought she wouldn't see Hiju, but before long, a strange Mercedes appeared in her sight. Intuition made Su Ran stare at the car, and sure enough, she saw Hiju get out of the driver's seat after the car parked downstairs, then went to the passenger seat and opened the door to pick up a person. Due to the angle, Su Ran could only see Hiju's back, but the woman in Hiju's arms was clearly visible to her. Su Ran looked at her phone screen and, after careful comparison, confirmed that the person was Sihua, the current chairman of the Starshine Group. Su Ran's hands on the steering wheel were shaking non-stop, and her eyes were red with hatred. She saw Hiju kiss Sihua tenderly, saw Sihua respond to Hiju's kiss, act coquettishly and hug Hiju's neck, with Hiju's suit jacket covering her legs. Hiju was even reluctant to let Sihua walk. In Su Ran's memory, Hiju, who was so gentle, used to be like that only to her. But over the years, they had never kissed, so why did Sihua get to him first? At this moment, Su Ran was overwhelmed with anger. She took out her phone and did the same thing as Qiu Shaozi, taking clear pictures of Hiju and Sihua's actions. She also didn't believe that someone like Hiju could win Sihua's favor. Who was Sihua? It can be said that as long as something happens to Sihua, the entire City A will be in an uproar. Starshine is the recognized strongest enterprise in City A, with a market presence throughout the country. Su Ran felt that Hiju had no backbone and must have climbed into the bed of a rich woman, he must have been maintained. Su Ran was so angry. Just because she didn't want to be with Hiju, did he have to fall like this? Why not do something else? Be a rich woman's lover. Hiju didn't know Su Ran's thoughts, and even if he did, he wouldn't care. He took Sihua upstairs, into the bathroom, came out after taking a shower, put Sihua on the bed, and then went to work on his drawings. It wasn't until 1 in the morning that Hiju turned off the computer, went back to bed satisfied with his fragrant wife. And Su Ran, also at 1 in the morning, left after seeing the lights go out at Hiju's house and returned home. Just as she got home and turned on the lights, Su Ran was startled. Because Shen Yan was sitting on the sofa, wearing pajamas, holding a glass of red wine, and there were already many empty wine bottles on the table, it looked like she had already drunk a lot. Seeing Su Ran come back, Shen Yan asked coldly, "I heard from Shaoli that you left the company before work was over and didn't tell your dad where you were going." "Su Ran, where did you go?" Su Ran couldn't help but frown slightly. She had gradually become impatient with Shen Yan's countless interrogations. Seeing Shen Yan's calm questioning, Su Ran had no doubt that she might explode the next second. Su Ran answered calmly, "I went to find He Ju." Sure enough, Shen Yan's face suddenly darkened. "He Ju again? Did he save your life?" "Su Ran, can't you have some self-respect?" Thinking of the scene she had just seen and the grievances she had suffered in recent days, the surging emotions made her lose her rationality in an instant. Su Ran stared at Shen Yan. "Mom, He Ju not only saved my life, but also saved yours and Dad's life. Have you forgotten? When I was 13, I fell into the pool, and He Ju saved me. When I was 15, he came to my house after school to help me with my homework. The gas at home was left on by the maid, and we all passed out from gas poisoning. He called 911. When I was 18, I had a stomach illness, and he took me to the hospital. Mom, I just don't understand, how can you look down on him like this? Isn't his past sincerity to me better than Qiu Shaozi, a playboy like that?" Shen Yan was momentarily taken aback. "What?" Su Ran walked step by step toward Shen Yan. "It seems that you really forgot. When I was 13, I fell into the pool, and He Ju saved me. When I was 15, he came to my house after school to help me with my homework. The gas at home was left on by the maid, and we all passed out from gas poisoning. He called 911. When I was 18, I had a stomach illness, and he took me to the hospital. Mom, I just don't understand, how can you look down on him like this? Isn't his past sincerity to me better than Qiu Shaozi, a playboy like that?" Shen Yan was momentarily taken aback. "What?" Su Ran fell silent at Shen Yan's words, her eyes turning red. In the end, Su Ran gave a bitter smile. "Yes, it was me who looked down on him in the first place. What right do I have to say these things now?" Shen Yan finally realized the seriousness of the situation and walked towards Su Ran. Ran, tell Mom, what happened?" With tears in her eyes, Su Ran looked at Shen Yan with sadness. "He is living with Si Hua, the chairman of the Starshine Group." Shen Yan was stunned. "Are you kidding? That's the Si family." Shen Yan knew a little about the Si family because her father was promoted by Si Hua's grandfather with just a word. Her father was just a driver for the Si family back then. They and the Si family were completely different people. The Si family was the real billionaire, and Si Hua was the real young lady. Discover the complete story on He Ju. How could that fool He Ju possibly do that? Su Ran wiped away her tears and sneered, "Mom, are you satisfied now? He will never bother you again." After speaking, Su Ran went upstairs with her bag. Not long after Su Ran left, Su Jin came back. Because the company had too many projects recently, he worked late almost every day. Today, Su Ran left early again, so he stayed late again. He thought he would be welcomed home by his wife and child. But as soon as he entered, Su Zhen had just changed his shoes when Shen Yan sarcastically said, "You're willing to come back? Looking so exhausted, did you go fool around with some woman?" Su Zhen's anger flared up. "Shen Yan, are you okay? What nonsense are you spouting again?" Su Zhen was getting more and more intolerant of Shen Yan's suspicions. Seeing that Su Zhen was really angry, Shen Yan restrained herself and got up to get Su Zhen's coat. "Just kidding, why are you overreacting? I'm angry because your daughter went to find He Ju again tonight." Su Zhen finally managed to suppress his anger, took a deep breath, and said, "That's Su Ran's own business, you shouldn't interfere." Shen Yan's anger was reignited. What do you mean I shouldn't interfere? She's my daughter, I'm her mother, isn't it only right for me to look after her? Su Zhen was utterly exhausted, too tired from a day's work to get entangled with Shen Yan over this, so he dropped the subject. I'm going to take a shower and go to bed. Shen Yan kept nagging as she followed Su Zhen. Mr. Su, what are you trying to say? Whenever we talk about this, you're either belittling your wife and daughter or praising He Ju. Now you even tell me not to get involved. Why do you always side with outsiders? Su Zhen frowned at Shen Yan, remained silent for a long moment, and then let out a sentence. Are you going through menopause? Maybe you should go to the hospital and have your brain checked. After speaking, Su Zhen walked away without looking back. Shen Yan's mind went blank, and when she came to her senses, Su Zhen had already gone upstairs. Shen Yan felt overwhelmed, her daughter blamed her, and her husband didn't understand her. Shen Yan cried out, Su Zhen, I regret marrying you. You're just a coward. You can't do anything, and you have the nerve to blame me. Su Zhen was completely indifferent to her, and just said, have the servant make you some sobering soup. I'm going to sleep in the study tonight. After speaking, Su Zhen disappeared in front of her. Bang! Shen Yan smashed the bottle on the table, and the broken glass covered the floor, startling the servants in the house, who didn't dare to come out. They had long known that the lady had a bad temper, but as she got older, it seemed to get worse. Shen Yan's angry voice echoed in the living room, fine. Get out. Just because of He Ju, both of you, father and daughter, are teaming up to bully me. The hidden servants couldn't help but discuss in whispers. What does this have to do with young Master He? An innocent victim. Thank goodness young Master He has already escaped, otherwise, with a mother-in-law like this, he would have suffered for a lifetime. Yeah, it's a big mess. Madam is using young Master He as a scapegoat, isn't she? Clearly young Master He didn't do anything wrong. That's right. Even animals know how to repay kindness, but young Master He saved her life, and she repays him with ingratitude. Oh, stop talking, it's not good if we're found out. So everyone closed their mouths. Shen Yan also staggered upstairs. Support us at. Qiu Shaozi had waited for several days, but Su Ran showed no sign of action, which made him increasingly puzzled. Could it be that Su Ran was really willing to accept this? Su Ran could wait, but Qiu Shaozi couldn't. His power was almost being sidelined now. If this continued, the Qiu family would really expel him. So, Qiu Shaozi changed into a suit, got a new hairstyle, and on a day when He Ju was not around, he went to the underground garage of Xingyao to intercept Sihua. If He Ju could be Sihua's lover, Qiu Shaozi felt that he could too. After all, he was more handsome than He Ju, and he was definitely better in that aspect than this clueless little guy, He Ju. Sihua had just finished work and made plans to have dinner with He Ju, who had to work overtime. She went to order food first, without bringing her assistant. Who knew that as soon as she was about to get in the car, she was blocked by a pair of hands. Sihua instinctively took several steps back, and when she saw Qiu Shaozi, who was dressed like a peacock, her eyes suddenly turned cold, and her voice was icy. Young Master Qiu, what do you want? Qiu Shaozi smiled obsequiously. Miss C, I have something I want to talk to you about in private. Don't worry, it's not business. Let's talk about some personal matters. Can you? Sihua stared at him expressionlessly, and her red lips only uttered two words, get lost. The expression on Qiu Shaozi's face changed visibly, but he was thick-skinned and quickly put on a smile again. Miss C, don't be in such a hurry to refuse me. As he spoke, Qiu Shaozi took out a photo from his phone, which was a close-up picture of He Ju and Sihua at the hospital entrance. Sihua didn't say anything, but her eyes gradually turned cold. Qiu Shaozi understood the meaning in Sihua's eyes. Are you following us? Qiu Shaozi immediately shook his head. I didn't mean to follow you, Miss C. I just... As he spoke, Qiu Shaozi even blushed a little. Sihua was too high-class, and her figure was just his type, and he couldn't help but fantasize. Si Hua was an adult, and she had already done what she shouldn't have done with He Ju, so she knew exactly what Qiu Shaoza's eyes meant. However, He Ju's eyes excited her, while Qiu Shaoza's made her feel disgusted. Qiu Shaoza walked towards Si Hua. I just want to tell Miss Si that what He Ju can do, I can do too, and I can do it better than him. How about considering me? Si Hua immediately understood what Qiu Shaoza was saying. She laughed in exasperation. What do you mean? Did he really think he could threaten her with this photo? Qiu Shaoza really didn't understand her at all. Qiu Shaoza, who didn't know any better, straightened his suit and said seriously, Miss Si, if you like He Ju, I don't object to you being with him. After all, we're all just here to have fun, why not add one more person? Just keep it from him. As he spoke, Qiu Shaoza even turned around confidently, how about it? Satisfied? Si Hua sneered, she really didn't know where Qiu Shaoza got the nerve. Si Hua didn't mince words and raised her foot, kicking Qiu Shaoza in the knee. Qiu Shaoza was caught off guard and bent his knee, falling to the ground, tears streaming down his face from the pain. Si Hua sneered, what kind of person are you? You dare to compare yourself to He Ju? You really don't understand your position, Qiu Shaoza. A piece of trash like you dares to say such high-sounding words to me? After speaking, Si Hua kicked him again, get lost. Idiot. Then she got into the driver's seat, started the car, and drove away. Qiu Shaoza was in pain, sweating profusely. Si Hua was wearing high heels, and every kick she delivered was merciless, paying no attention to his feelings. He was in excruciating pain and secretly resented He Ju even more. He Ju believed it was because of him that Si Hua treated him this way. Si Hua had called He Ju and recounted, without missing a word, what Qiu Shaoza had done just now. Qiu Shaoza's disgusting behavior made Si Hua feel that even meeting him was a test of her endurance, therefore. Si Hua decided to leave the decision-making to He Ju. It was also because she was Si Hua that Qiu Shaoza, even though he dared to block her way, didn't dare to do anything too extreme to her. If it were any other girl, Si Hua wouldn't dare to guarantee their safety. To both her and He Ju, Qiu Shaoza was a potential danger. She wouldn't allow such a fool like Qiu Shaoza to become a stumbling block between them. After listening to Si Hua, He Ju left the office without a word and headed to the parking lot. Si Hua had already left, but Qiu Shaoza was still there, leaning on his car and seemingly on the phone. He Ju didn't care about the details and went straight over, landing a punch on Qiu Shaoza's face. Before Qiu Shaoza could react, he was grabbed by the collar and punched repeatedly. Qiu Shaoza, who? However, He Ju didn't give Qiu Shaoza a chance to speak. After throwing dozens of punches, he grabbed Qiu Shaoza by the throat. The intense feeling of suffocation terrified Qiu Shaoza, his eyes bulging and limbs flailing in the air, until He Ju finally let him go. Qiu Shaoza coughed violently, spitting out a large pool of fresh blood. He Ju grabbed Qiu Shaoza's hair, his eyes filled with a chilling terror that Qiu Shaoza had never seen before. Qiu Shaoza, you really think I'm afraid of you, huh? Are you tired of living? Daring to covet my woman? Qiu Shaoza finally saw clearly and heard who the man in front of him was. He wanted to speak, but was punched hard in the eye, and all that came out of his mouth was a miserable scream, ah. We are, Pori.co, find us on Google. Qiu Shaoza, full of hatred, looked up at He Ju, who was now lying on the ground and couldn't get up. He threatened He Ju word by word, He Ju, you better kill me today, or someday. Ah. Before Qiu Shaoza could finish, He Ju kicked him in the face, making his teeth tremble. Frowning, He Ju looked down at him and said calmly, I'm waiting for you. Without waiting for him to finish, He Ju turned and left without even looking at Qiu Shaoza lying on the ground. Afterward, He Ju called a news reporter. There were too many ways for him to kill Qiu Shaoza, and there was no need to tarnish himself. Qiu Shaoza could only humiliate himself by getting up. The carefully selected suit he was wearing at the moment made him feel like a clown. Qiu Shaoze was full of resentment and gritted his teeth as he muttered two words, "He Ju." Did he think he could dominate everything by climbing up the tree of Sihua? He was underestimating him too much. Qiu Shaoze struggled to stand up and limped to find his car. Qiu Shaoze was unwilling. When he made money at this auction and regained control of the Qiu family, he would make sure He Ju had no place to be buried. At this time, He Ju also received a call from Bai Yan, "Hey buddy, you don't need a reporter for this." He Ju was now back in the office, rolling up his sleeves and washing his hands in the pantry. "What's up? Bai Yan, have you forgotten about the auction? That kid is counting on this auction to turn things around. As far as I know, he's not well received in the Qiu family right now. I heard that the old man Qiu has already brought the illegitimate child back home." He Ju raised an eyebrow, somewhat surprised. "Is he trying to change the heir?" Bai Yan laughed. "It's easy to talk to a smart person like you." "Exactly, that's why Qiu Shaoze was so anxious to stop my sister. My sister is soft-hearted, at most she'll just kick him out, but Qiu Shaoze is a tough nut to crack. He's learned his lesson this time, but he won't just let it go." He Ju's eyes suddenly turned cold for a moment, but quickly returned to normal. "I see." He Ju suddenly remembered something and asked Bai Yan, "Is the auction important to Qiu Shaoze?" Bai Yan, "Of course, the Qiu family made their fortune through this. Qiu Shaoze is a recognized genius in the stone gambling world. He's counting on this auction to turn things around." "Genius?" He Ju was suddenly interested. He should go and meet this so-called genius. Bai Yan continued to gossip, because Qiu Shaoze is a genius who can bring a lot of profit and wealth to the Qiu family, the old man Qiu values him. Otherwise. He Ju, are the information you've gathered accurate? Bai Yan, 100% accurate. He Ju, okay, then let's not do anything to him for now. We'll wait until after the auction. After all, the auction was only 2 days away. Presumably, Qiu Shaoze would go all out this time. Perfect, He Ju needed money. Since Qiu Shaoze dared to cross He Ju's bottom line, He Ju would make him taste the feeling of going from a genius to a loser. Also, He Ju hadn't forgotten the look on Qiu Shaoze's face when he despised him as a pauper at the school gate. Otherwise, He Ju didn't feel quite right about making Qiu Shaoze experience the feeling of having nothing. Let Qiu Shaoze enjoy himself for a few days. After washing his hands, He Ju filled his thermos with water and left the pantry. He had to finish writing the plan for the Little Clear River camping trip. An hour later, He Ju received a call from Sihua, "Dinner is already booked. You can come over and eat. Hurry up, I'll send you the location." He Ju's heart suddenly warmed, and he replied gently, "Okay, I'll be right there." After that, He Ju saved the newly made file in the e-drive and put on his coat before leaving. Just as he left the company, He Ju saw a familiar figure. It was Lu Jia. She was wearing a white princess-style short skirt that reached her knees, revealing a pair of straight and slender legs. Her long hair reached her waist, tied with a white bow, making her look like a princess who had fallen to earth. He Ju stopped in his tracks and called out in confusion, "Jia Jia." Lu Jia turned around, her face, which used to have a hint of baby fat, had slimmed down. She came to see He Ju, clearly wearing makeup. Today, Lu Jia's makeup was very elegant, with pink and tender lips. Lu Jia smiled at He Ju, "Don't get me wrong, I'm here to say goodbye." "Goodbye?" He Ju's heart skipped a beat. "Where are you going?" Lu Jia took out a resignation letter from her bag and handed it to He Ju. "Could you please give this to the boss for me, He Ju?" Looking at the resignation letter in his hand, He Ju's heart was filled with mixed emotions for a moment. "Lu Jia, you don't have to." Lu Jia shook her head, "I'm resigning because my family is immigrating abroad. My father has already arranged for the handover of the domestic company, and I might be studying abroad in the future. Because this might be their last meeting, she wanted to see him. He-ju, why is this so sudden? You never mentioned it before. Lu Jia, actually, immigration has always been my parents' wish. It's just that I've been studying in China, so it's been delayed. My grandmother has been living alone abroad for years, and she's getting old. My parents are always worried, so they're ready to leave. He-ju could only smile and say, well. I wish you a safe journey. Aren't you going to have a farewell dinner with us? Lu Jia shook her head, smiling gently, but her eyes seemed to be on the verge of tears. The flight is at 10 o'clock tonight. It's too late. He-ju, I hope you and Sihua can be happy. This is an early wedding gift from me to you. After speaking, Lu Jia took out a gift box and handed it to He-ju. He-ju shook his head, I can't accept this, Jia, you. Lu Jia walked straight up to him, placed the gift box into He-ju's palm, and didn't give him a chance to refuse. He-ju was immediately in a difficult position, you. Lu Jia, take it, He-ju, my classmate, consider it a little token of my affection. He-ju could only remain silent, subconsciously wanting to open the gift box. The evening breeze lifted Lu Jia's skirt and her flowing hair, as she smiled with her eyes curving, take a look when you get back. So He-ju stopped, and didn't continue to look. These were shares of the Lu family's corporation. She had once thought that if she could marry He-ju, these would be her dowry. If not, then this was her wedding gift to him. He-ju was a great, outstanding person. Back in school, everyone felt he was not good enough for Su Ran. But only Lu Jia knew, the person who was not good enough was never He-ju. Lu Jia waved at He-ju, her eyes brimming with tears, yet stubbornly refusing to let them fall. Goodbye, He-ju, my classmate, I hope we meet again if fate allows. He-ju's mood was complicated. He had no romantic feelings for Lu Jia, but after so many years of being classmates, he could empathize with her feelings. Between them, it was destined but not meant to be. He-ju had no authority to interfere with Lu Jia's decision. Therefore, He-ju could only politely ask her, do you need me to take you to the airport? As expected, Lu Jia refused, I'll walk the future path alone. Their family had planned to immigrate since their freshman year, but Lu Jia was unwilling. She still had someone she liked in China. Even though the person she liked never looked back at her, she still wanted to see him more, until she could no longer deceive herself. Now, it was that time. He-ju, goodbye, the one I love. He-ju could only nod and say in a hoarse voice, Jia, until we meet again by fate. Lu Jia nodded with tears in her eyes, turned and left, her white figure gradually disappearing from He-ju's sight. He-ju stood in place for a long time, and the wind made him sneeze involuntarily, bringing him back to his senses. Opening the gift box, inside were neatly arranged stocks and a paper version of the contract. He-ju was suddenly shocked, and upon closer inspection, there was a conveniently written note, Lu family, this is the wedding gift I'm giving you, He-ju, don't refuse. I'm waiting to see you shine brightly, Jia. The gift box was light, yet heavy. Whether it was because of the strong wind and sand that blurred He-ju's eyes, he felt a moment of sourness in his eyes. Although Lu Jia didn't say anything, He-ju understood. This should be the dowry Lu Jia prepared for herself. Find the original at. If she married him, this was the dowry. If she didn't marry, this was a congratulatory gift. What was delivered to his hands now was a congratulatory gift. In Lu Jia's heart, she had already married He-ju. The gift was too heavy, He-ju dared not and could not accept it, but he also couldn't return it. He-ju could only temporarily hold on to the stocks. In the future, he would manage the Lu family with Sihua, waiting for the opportunity to meet Lu Jia again and return to her a brand new Lu family group. He-ju sighed and left the company in his car. When He-ju arrived at the place to meet Sihua, it was already 10 o'clock at night. He-ju explained to Sihua clearly about Lu Jia coming to find him, and finally handed the contracts to Si Hua. I think you can handle all of this. Si Hua also felt uncomfortable, but there was nothing she could do. He-ju was the only one, and she also liked He-ju very much. Without He-ju, she would die too. Si Hua, I will handle it. I will transfer every year's profit from the Liu family to Jia Jia's account without missing a penny. He-ju nodded, the two of them smiled at each other, but it seemed like they both felt something in their hearts as they turned to look out the window. They saw a plane flying towards the sky, quickly disappearing from their sight. He-ju and Si Hua couldn't help but wonder, could it be the plane Jia Jia is on? May it take off and land safely. After dinner, He-ju and Si Hua cancelled their upcoming plans and returned home. After this experience, Si Hua cherished every moment with He-ju even more. Even when He-ju was revising the drawings, Si Hua would lie on He-ju's lap like a lazy cat, not bothering He-ju, just simply enjoying this rare time together. After finishing the drawing, He-ju looked down and saw that Si Hua had fallen asleep on his lap. He-ju's heart stirred, he leaned down and kissed Si Hua's cheek, but unexpectedly, Si Hua suddenly opened her eyes, her bright eyes full of anticipation, sweetly calling him, husband. He-ju immediately smiled, reached out and patted her round buttocks. Good, go lie down and wait for your husband. Si Hua shyly agreed, and she quickly slipped into He-ju's blanket, not even willing to show her head. He-ju was amused by Si Hua's actions, and as he packed up, he asked her, what's wrong? Isn't the person you want me? Why are you still shy? Obviously, Si Hua wouldn't answer him, just humming and grumbling under the blanket. He-ju's smile deepened, and he packed up even faster. He-ju didn't make Si Hua wait long. After packing up, he turned off the lights and got into bed, grabbing Si Hua's ankle and dragging her to the end of the bed. Si Hua didn't expect He-ju to do this, and she screamed in surprise, but He-ju accurately covered her mouth and his hand eagerly slipped under her nightgown. The moon was high in the sky, and He-ju was in high spirits. But the door was knocked, it was his good buddies. No matter how much Motor and the others rang the doorbell, He-ju had no intention of going out to open the door. It was Si Hua who cried and pushed his shoulder, go, open the door. With the warm and fragrant beauty in his arms, He-ju couldn't leave, so he just turned Si Hua over, good, don't mind them. Knocking on the door late at night, He-ju used to let it slide when he was single, but now he's a man with a happy life. Thinking of getting up to open the door at night? Forget about it. Si Hua was on the verge of tears, indeed, her brother was still young. Youth means strength. Such robust health. She was almost unable to cope. He-ju's doorbell and phone rang for a while before returning to darkness, while Si Hua's voice grew louder and louder. It wasn't until the sky turned the pale color of fish bellies that He-ju finally got up to wash up, and Si Hua was once again too exhausted to open her eyes. After He-ju finished washing up, he came back to see Si Hua sleeping soundly and couldn't help shaking his head. It's a good thing you own the company, otherwise you would have been fired by the boss long ago. Si Hua didn't react at all, so He-ju could only pick up her phone and send a message to Zhang Xiaoxiao, let's postpone today's activities to the evening. As soon as He-ju put down the phone, Zhang Xiaoxiao immediately called. He-ju answered, and Zhang Xiaoxiao spoke anxiously, boss, but there's a meeting at 2 o'clock this afternoon that you need to attend. He-ju glanced at Si Hua and finally resigned himself to say, can we switch it to a video conference, or push it back 2 hours? You arrange it, and also, help me take a leave, bye. Zhang Xiaoxiao hadn't had the chance to reply when she was met with a busy tone and then silence. Zhang Xiaoxiao. That intense? In the end, Zhang Xiaoxiao could only resign herself to think for a moment and send a message to Mr. He. Mr. He, the meeting time has been changed to 4:30 in the afternoon, please ensure President Xi attends. He-ju simply replied, After that, He-ju, who was supposed to go to work, ended up staying at home with Si Hua. At this time, Qiu Shaoze was in the hospital, throwing a fit. What are you all good for? Can't even treat such a minor injury. Useless. How could he go home with the marks on his face? How could he attend the auction? The doctors and nurses looked at him as if he were a madman, watching his crazed behavior.